In the heart of the 21st century, a technological revolution is underway. Artificial intelligence, once a figment of science fiction, my friend, very eyes, it's, make no mistake, yes, a lot of computer science, there's a lot of nerdy stuff happening under the hood, but it's also incredibly rock and roll and exciting. So I'm very excited to get started and moving forward in this journey and talking about it with you guys. At the forefront of this revolution that we're going to be looking at together is going to be two titans. Now there's a bunch, but the two titans I want to focus on with you is OpenAI, which is an American powerhouse, and DeepSeek, which is basically a rising star from China. All right. So welcome to the introduction of the AI revolution. Make no mistake, whether you love AI or you hate AI, whether you're confused by it or you can't get enough of it, it is redefining our landscape, the landscape of our workforce, the landscape of our professional lives, and the landscape of our personal lives, because it's going to be affecting social media. It's going to be affecting everything we do and interact with out in the open, from customer service all the way to the way that we send messages, the way that we take trips and go out and come home, the way data is processed. Data, the most valuable thing is data today. I argue that data is more valuable than money. And you can laugh at me there. You can say, okay, Clarion, well, I just got a whole bunch of data, but I can't buy anything with it. Well, maybe just by seeing a bunch of information on the internet and not knowing what to do with it, and you're one person, sure. But make no mistake, all of the billions of dollars that are accumulating every day, every time you log into Facebook, every company that understands how to utilize your data, that is money, my friends. That is not just money, it's power and money. All right, so we're going to stop there. I know I'm getting a little bit deep, but I think this is an exciting topic. Now, if you already have an understanding and a knowledge of what LLMs are, you know what DeepSeek is on a beginner level, you can skip through this. You don't have to stay for this adventure we're about to take. But if you want a refresher, or you're excited and you're not sure, then stick with me and we're going to go into the beginning of the story. I want to talk about the beginning of OpenAI, how it came to prominence, and then how DeepSeek jumped into the fold. And as we do it, we're going to take a look at the core principles of what is AI, what are LLMs, what are AI agents, and basically the important things we need to know for the even more fun part of this course, which is not this fun documentation that we're going through right now, but it's going to be the building, right? Because we're going to show in this course, step by step, you're going to build with me. We're going to make games, websites, applications. We are going to employ robots to build games for us. I'm going to show you what is happening now in 2025 and what you need to be paying attention to. This is very powerful stuff, guys, and I can't wait to get into it. But let's start with a fun journey first through the beginnings of this revolution. I'll see you in the next lesson. OpenAI, okay? The company behind ChatGPT, right? Where you can ask a question or send a prompt and basically get incredible amounts of information processed and inference, meaning that this AI is going to take your question and using these extraordinarily complex transformation systems or transformers will generate these responses that are very human-like and contain highly valuable data, right? Super intelligent responses, as if it has all of Google at its fingertips. Well, it has been trained on the internet, right? So what is the company behind ChatGPT? OpenAI, all right? Excuse me for the cheesy sound effects. But OpenAI's story began in 2015. They had a bold vision, my friends, to ensure that artificial general intelligence, all right, AGI. What is that? That is not just AI. That's AI that surpasses human intelligence, because that's the goal. Right now, we're at the precipice of AGI. We're not quite at AGI, but at a certain point in time, inference is going to become so powerful with these super neural networks that artificial intelligence, the IQ of ChatGPT or DeepSeek, its IQ is going to surpass our greatest geniuses. Imagine that. And where does that put them? What kind of responses and knowledge will they be bringing back to us? Will we even be able to understand that? I mean, this is where we're headed, guys. You have to think outside of the box. Yeah, it's, of course, we're being practical. We're thinking about, okay, how can I make some money? How do I get a raise? How do I find a job? How can I use this so that I can have more free time for myself and it can handle all these annoying emails or blah, blah, blah. But don't discount the actual goals happening behind these multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies that are building these products. That is the main goal, which is to surpass human intelligence. Now, all for the what? Well, they say it's all for the benefit of humanity. So let's hope that's true. I mean, we've all seen enough science fiction movies to think, okay, well, maybe not, but you know, I'm gonna hope that it's true and that these movies have left some kind of impression, so these companies aren't going to go ahead and just nuke us with AI, because that's how a lot of these sci-fis end. And if you saw from when I'm making this video, OpenAI just made a deal with General Defense, U.S. government's nuclear division. So hopefully, I don't know. I don't know if I need a bunker or not. But let's leave it there to start. Remember, there is a bigger purpose behind all this. OpenAI, they have to focus on ethical AI development because of this. The idea is to ensure positive societal impacts. All right. What DeepSeek came out of the blue, and we're going to talk about each one, so don't worry for getting a little ahead. But DeepSeek came out to leverage the local expertise for innovative AI solutions and said, well, listen, what if we could commodify so that everybody could have their own AI and not just OpenAI? That's really what DeepSeek is doing in a very big way. If you really want to look at the revolution and where do LLMs kick off into mainstream, it's because of OpenAI. OpenAI established itself as a leader in advanced AI research with ChatGPT. And then DeepSeek came out of the blue and knocked $1 trillion out of the market in one day because investors of NVIDIA got freaked, wondering, is this just a Cisco blow off top of 2001? But it just goes to show you that, yes, we have a very reactive stock market, but also that the power here is so immense that within a day, it can cause $1 trillion ripples to our global economy. All right? And we're only at the tip of the iceberg, my friends. This is the tip. All right, so let's stop there. And in the next lesson, let's go into, well, who's behind OpenAI? We'll talk about Sam Altman. Who's behind DeepSeek? What is DeepSeek? How does it differentiate? So we'll talk about the tech hub that's bustling in China, in Hangzhou, and this incredible mathematical genius that came out of left field, Liang Wenfeng, if I'm saying that right. You know, I'm really bad at, I butcher names all the time, including my own name. Imagine that. But we'll get into all that and more in the next lesson. And then from there, once we have the foundations down, let's actually go into the nitty gritty. Well, what are LLMs? How do they benefit us? What are AI agents? What are the differences and the misconceptions? Then we can roll up our sleeves and start building our own agents so that we can build anything you want. Games, applications. Sky's the limit, my friends. I could do research for you. You want to make your own YouTube influencer? Let's do it. Okay, I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now. Okay, so we talked about how in 2015 you had this company emerge, OpenAI. Now, OpenAI, which is what's behind ChatGPT, was founded by Sam Altman. He's the CEO, okay? So he's a visionary entrepreneur, and he led the charge for OpenAI. And this company, backed by Elon Musk and all these billionaires, had billions of dollars. And now it has expanded into being backed by Microsoft. And it's really synonymous with cutting edge AI. If you think ChatGPT, you have to think OpenAI. All right. So, DeepSeek is another cutting edge AI technology that we mentioned, which came out of left field. It's very similar in the sense to OpenAI, where that it provides a service in which you have an LLM, a large language model, which does what? Well, the model essentially, it's going to input some text, you prompt it with a question or whatever you want to ask it, and it's going to output a response. Now, the difference, of course, is that it has its own unique model, and this model has been optimized and it's been innovated in a different way. All right, just to give you an idea, this year alone, and we're in January still, OpenAI has $80 billion coming in from Microsoft. All right, now ChatGPT's raised hundreds of billions of dollars. Sorry, $80 billion, I should say. Now, DeepSeek's total startup cost was only $6 million. It's $6 million and it's free to use. And whereas OpenAI is closed source, meaning you can't actually take a look at the proprietary code, DeepSeek is open source and it's free to use. All right, so DeepSeek was founded last year, 2023, from when I'm making this video. And so it's a relatively newcomer to the scene, but it's extremely powerful. And its founder is Liang Wenfeng. She is a serial entrepreneur with a background in finance and technology, but you probably never heard of her until now. Now she's like, boom, this company is taking the main tech stage. Both of these leaders, of course, have this goal to prioritize ethical AI development because this is a very powerful tool. It is like playing with nuclear energy. With great power comes great responsibility. But you should also then see this type of competitive dynamic, right? You've got OpenAI focusing on some type of societal welfare and this AGI principle of surpassing human intelligence in a way that will benefit all of humanity, supposedly, whereas DeepSeek is driving rapid technological advancement. They found a way to say, wait a minute, we can commodify this. You can download an LLM version onto your computer. You don't even need to be online, and you can run it. As we're going to see in this course, you don't even need GPU to get super, super powerful responses. Now, of course, it's not going to be as optimized as using GPT-4 or something like that. But in terms of the efficiency and quality of the response, but it's still incredible to see the differences. And if you use the full version and tap into the API of DeepSeek, you'll see that it's as powerful and as efficient, if not more, in many, many ways, especially with coding and mathematics, which are all heavily valuable when it comes to the potential utilities of what artificial intelligence presents. The vision behind OpenAI and DeepSeek is about having an ethical framework so AGI is safe, transparent, beneficial. For DeepSeek, it's about innovation, finding practical AI solutions so that we can all use it in a way that's beneficial for people, learning, leveraging advanced technologies. And you can compare these philosophies where while OpenAI emphasizes on the whole ethical considerations, this is just on the whole, because they both, of course, care about ethics. They need to, and with that much spotlight on them, hopefully with this much power, and they both care about providing technological innovation, right? But we can contrast the philosophies of where they are peaking in terms of immediate value right now and how they contrast each other based on basically their technological angles, all right? And where the value is presented to investors and to users. So usership and investorship, all right? So let's stop there, and in the next lesson, we can go into more what are LLMs exactly and how do they work in terms of their benefits from writing code, translating languages, creating art, all the wonderful stuff we do and use with ChatGPT maybe every day without thinking about it. Maybe you never have. Let's talk about it in the next lesson. Again, if this is all pretty obvious stuff, you don't need to go through this with me. Feel free to move on to the next section where we start building with DeepSeek right away. It's going to be much more practical. I promise, less theatrics. But I really do enjoy teaching this. Hopefully you can feel my excitement, because I really feel that this needs to be accessible for everybody, because there's so many people that are sitting in jobs that are stuck in 2005 right now, and they're just watching and reading headlines and not knowing what's going on. It's not complicated stuff, but it's a world, and it's a world in which we need to understand the foundations in order to then appreciate what's going on and find our own value, find our own understanding. That's my job here. I'm having fun, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. I'll see you in the next lesson where we could continue on this quest. See you there. The AI race is not just about technology. It's about power, influence, and the future of humanity. Pretty heavy stuff. Pretty heavy stuff. But in order to let that sink in, we need to really understand, well, what are large language models, these LLMs, that are basically the main mechanism behind how Gemini or ChatGPT, Grok, and DeepSeek function. All right. So the first thing we should talk about are basically the advancements that are happening in NLP. Because if it wasn't for NLP and the movements with vector graphing, and don't worry, we're going to talk about what this is if that sounds a little bit sci-fi to you. But NLP, which stands for Natural Language Processing, basically does what it says. It enables machines to understand and generate human language with incredible accuracy by using contextual awareness and very clever ways of being able to quickly and efficiently figure out, basically, with large databases or efficiently sized databases that contain vast amount of information, context awareness, what humans are saying, and process that information. So large language models essentially revolutionized natural language processing. And to simplify that down, if that still sounds confusing, NLP is basically a field of artificial intelligence that's aim is to focus on enabling computers to understand and interpret general human language. And when I talk about general human language, I mean, just talking to it, speaking to a machine, or typing it in. And what does that remind you of? Well, it reminds me as a programmer of coding, right? If you think about programming, what is programming essentially? Well, they're abstracted layers in order for machines to understand us. But the programming is closer and closer to the machine language till you get from higher level languages like JavaScript to lower level languages like assembly, all right? Computers don't understand English, right? They're not born into a cradle and nurtured and taught, words like mommy and daddy and then grow up. Computers are basically pieces of plastic and metal, okay, that have circuits. And the circuits are these transistors that create binary. And without getting super deep, you can think of it as true or false. And these complex tables of truth or what is true and what is false. Can it be true? If it's true, if it's not true, XOR, XOR, all this stuff, this computer science stuff, you don't need to know it, but what you do need to understand is think of the layers of complexity for natural language processing. Think of the layers. So computers started with binary. Computers start at the lowest level. Then you have a simple version of English or whatever the language is that interprets at the very basic amount of code to that binary so it can process information with RAM, which is basically memory, understanding and remembering things or accessing memory, okay, with dynamic RAM. All right, we're not going to go into all of that. But the key takeaway here is that picture the lowest level, okay, binary, which is the language of computers, then assembly, which is a very basic introduction of English into getting the computer to understand us, to higher levels and higher levels like JavaScript, where now you're saying create this variable and then loop through something, iterate, create an object, build a game, and the game is going to have different characters, and each character is an object that has a face, and in the face there's going to be eyes, and these are the attributes of the object, and they're going to function, they're going to do things, and they're going to execute those things. Now, what NLP does at the highest level is another abstraction. And what is that abstraction? It's the final abstraction if you think about it. No more programmers needed. We don't need coders anymore. I'm just joking, I'm a programmer, but I'm half joking because this is quite a conundrum of sorts. I think so, and I think it's something to pay attention to because the final abstraction of talking to computers is English. Hey, ChatGPT, build me a game. Or what we're going to see, hey, DeepSeek, build me a game. DeepSeek, make me an application. Create me a to-do list. Create me a workout application. Deploy the application. Set up the marketing for me. Go on, AI agents. You realize that in order for DeepSeek to understand this, there are a lot of layers underneath. And the most important one to think about for LLMs in order to interpret what we're texting or what we're speaking is natural language processing. It's the way for them to understand the meaning of words and sentences, and not just the literal words, but the context. Let's stop there, and in the next lesson, we'll continue with NLP a little bit and talk about some more use cases and how they're put together. Okay, see you there. The AI race is not just about technology. It's about power, influence, and the future of humanity. Pretty heavy stuff. But in order to let that sink in, we need to really understand, well, what are large language models, these LLMs that are basically the main mechanism behind how Gemini or ChatGPT, Grok, and DeepSeek function. All right. So the first thing we should talk about are basically the advancements that are happening in NLP. Because if it wasn't for NLP and the movements with vector graphing, and don't worry, we're going to talk about what this is if that sounds a little bit sci-fi to you. But NLP, which stands for Natural Language Processing, basically does what it says. It enables machines to understand and generate human language with incredible accuracy by using contextual awareness and very clever ways of being able to quickly and efficiently figure out, basically, with large databases or efficiently sized databases that contain vast amount of information, context awareness, what humans are saying, and process that information. So large language models essentially revolutionized natural language processing. And to simplify that down, if that still sounds confusing, NLP is basically a field of artificial intelligence that's aim is to focus on enabling computers to understand and interpret general human language. And when I talk about general human language, I mean, just talking to it, speaking to a machine, or typing it in. And what does that remind you of? Well, it reminds me as a programmer of coding, right? If you think about programming, what is programming essentially? Well, they're abstracted layers in order for machines to understand us, but the programming is closer and closer to the machine language till you get from higher level languages like JavaScript to lower level languages like assembly. All right, computers don't understand English, right? They're not born into a cradle and nurtured and taught, words like mommy and daddy and then grow up. Computers are basically pieces of plastic and metal, okay, that have circuits. And the circuits are these transistors that create binary. And without getting super deep, you can think of it as true or false. And these complex tables of truth or what is true and what is false. Can it be true? If it's not true, XOR, XOR, all this stuff, this computer science stuff, you don't need to know it. But what you do need to understand is think of the layers of complexity for natural language processing. Think of the layers. So computers started with binary. Computers start at the lowest level. Then you have a simple version of English or whatever the language is that interprets at the very basic amount of code to that binary so it can process information with RAM, which is basically memory, understanding and remembering things or accessing memory, okay, with dynamic RAM. All right, we're not going to go into all of that. But the key takeaway here is that picture the lowest level, okay, binary, which is the language of computers, then assembly, which is a very basic introduction of English into getting the computer to understand us, to higher levels like JavaScript, where now you're saying create this variable and then loop through something, iterate, create an object, build a game, and the game is going to have different characters, and each character is an object that has a face, and in the face there's going to be eyes, and these are the attributes of the object, and they're going to function, they're going to do things, and they're going to execute those things. Now, what NLP does at the highest level is another abstraction. And what is that abstraction? It's the final abstraction if you think about it. No more programmers needed. We don't need coders anymore. I'm just joking, I'm a programmer, but I'm half joking because this is quite a conundrum of sorts. I think so, and I think it's something to pay attention to because the final abstraction of talking to computers is English. Hey, ChatGPT, build me a game. Or what we're going to see, hey, DeepSeek, build me a game. DeepSeek, make me an application. Create me a to-do list. Create me a workout application, deploy the application, set up the marketing for me, go on AI agents. You realize that in order for DeepSeek to understand this, there are a lot of layers underneath. And the most important one to think about for LLMs in order to interpret what we're texting or what we're speaking is natural language processing. It's the way for them to understand the meaning of words and sentences, and not just the literal words, but the context. Let's stop there, and in the next lesson, we'll continue with NLP a little bit and talk about some more use cases and how they're put together. Okay, see you there. So we spoke about the goal-oriented differences between OpenAI and DeepSeek, and we talked about basically their funding differences and the business vision, and how one belongs more towards the commodification of the general public, while another one has this grandiose vision for the benefit of all of humanity. But what actually is going on in the technology? Okay, so I want to talk about training again. I want to go back to this idea of taking a model and training it, teaching it. How do we teach something? Well, one of the most, and this should be super intuitive to consider, the most basic ways to teach yourself or teach someone something like I'm doing in this course is a technique known as reinforcement learning. And what works for humans works for machines in a very generalized manner. Okay. But the difference here with reinforcement is that I don't just want you to think, well, you show somebody a cue card with the capital of a city, and then if they don't get it, you show it to them again, and then you show it to them again, and you show it to them again. That is not what we mean by reinforcement learning, all right? What I'm talking about is, imagine you're teaching a dog a new trick. Now, you don't want to tell the dog exactly how to do it, but if they get close to figuring it out, like if your dog, doesn't quite roll over but gets into the position and then it gets, distracted and, starts licking its paw or whatever, it gets close, not quite there, you don't give them the treat or the reward, okay? Over time, over a period of time, eventually that dog's gonna roll over and get the treat and go through other periods of time where it doesn't get the treat, puts two and two together and infers the correct actions with the reward for the treat. That is how you should think about reinforcement learning. A series of conducted measures spanning over a period of time in order to create associative responses for correct actions through dispersions of rewards. Yummy, yummy treats. Okay. So OpenAI uses RL, because we don't like to say reinforcement learning in technology. It's all about abbreves. You abbrev, bro. Hey, bro. OpenAI. Hey, bro. RL. Okay. So RL to train the model. Let the AI make decisions. The AI interacts with an environment. And again, when we say environment, we don't mean outside. We mean the environment in which the AI is operating. So it could be in a game, a simulation, the real world, all right? And then make choices. Then you give the AI feedback, and that feedback then is, rewards or penalties based on the actions. And it's a system of learning through, it's nothing that, right? It doesn't sound like you're thinking about machine learning. Oh, goodness gracious, are we going to do some kind of Euclidean algorithms? Are we going on Euler's law? What's happening to some type of weird linear algebraic equations I don't understand? No, it's trial and error. It's actually, it's really not as elegant as you would think it should be. OpenAI, it's based off of trial and error. It's fairly obtuse, all right? But it works. You give it a crap load of data, and you reward it over time. But remember, this is a computer. You could train it to do things like play games at superhuman levels. It could be the best Mario of all time, right? It could control robots, generate creations that could be seemingly as creative as a human doing it, all right? No disrespect to you creative folks out there, but we're heading into places where these lines are becoming blurred. What does that mean philosophically? What does that mean existentially? Who knows? But that's not what we're here for today. And I dropped out of a philosophy major. I went into computer science, got my bachelor's in computer science. So I don't, that's not, it's not my subject, philosophy, clearly. But let's stop here. I want you to understand now a basic foundational approach to how OpenAI operates for learning. Now that we've looked at that technology, let's move on to mixture of experts, or MO, the way that DeepSeek works. All right? Very exciting stuff. I'll see you in the next lesson. So up to this point, we should understand that OpenAI has a large language model, which is developed through reinforcement learning. And we understand that reinforcement learning is about letting the AI make decisions, giving feedback to the AI through rewards or penalties based on its actions, and letting then through time the AI learn between what's good and bad through trial and error. Not the most incredible mathematical formula of all time, but it works. It works. All right? So OpenAI really crushes it. It crushed it. Clearly, just look at how good ChatGPT is. The proof's in the pudding. Now, what about DeepSeek? I want to move away from RL We're going to come back to it, but I want to emphasize an innovation, mixture of experts architecture. All right. You have to look at DeepSeek differently than ChatGPT, which spent hundreds of billions of dollars taking all the data in the world and labeling the data and training the data and reinforcement learning. And then you have a company out of China that's $6 million and can do all of it and more. It clearly did not go through the same period of time of training. So how in the world are we able to have this existing? So one of the important innovations I want you to consider is mixture of experts. So what does that mean? I want you to back out in terms of computer science and just think of it in general, I don't know, an analogy that's understandable. Let's think about a team of people. So I want you to think of MOE or MOE like a team of specialists, but instead of one person trying to do everything, you basically delegate. You have experts in different areas. So when a task comes up, all right, so, okay, we want to, at this point, understand the context that we're in. So the context expert's going to come out. We want to understand, okay, so the type of research that is best suited, well, then the research of that division is going to come out and do that job. The idea here, it's that we divide the model into experts. So you can have smaller expert networks, and each of them specialize in a different aspect of language. So there could be grammar, vocabulary, the topics. And since it's a network, then they all have to be interconnected, different paths or routes, and the route's got a task essentially to the right experts. So if a model receives a task, like answering a question, it's got to then, if it's using this MOE type of architecture, then it's going to figure out, there's some incredible math behind that, which experts are most relevant and sends the tasks to them. Think of a type of nearest neighbor approach that's highly, highly, highly intricate. And we're not done there. Then you got to combine the experts' knowledge. So then you got to take the experts so that they work together and from there produce that final output, that nice packaged answer in our LLM in our text. Hey, do you think I should drink this milk if it's gone bad? It seems like a simple question, but you have this incredible architecture and network system happening underneath the hood. So MOE architecture enhances efficiency by essentially, instead of activating everything, what's the point of doing that, right? It's like if you go to the store and you want to know something specific, like let's say an electronics store, well, you're going to go talk to the person at that division for televisions, right? You're not going to want to talk to everybody and take everybody's time. What kind of efficient system would that be? It makes sense that you're going to have different people doing different things in a store. So just like in a store of data and a store of analyzing and interpreting data, we can see the same thing. So optimizing computational resources while maintaining high performance in language processing tasks. All right, so that's selective expert activation through the MOE architecture. And we talked about contextual adaptability as well. So the dynamic selection of experts allows the model to tailor responses based on the characteristics, and then improving accuracy and relevance in diverse applications. So it might sound like, oh, this is like some kind of cheap replica that China just recreated because they're so good at creating cheap versions. No, this is actually a very well-built architecture that's extremely clever. And it has a scalable framework because of how the network is designed. So it can support scalability, which enables effective handling of large data sets without significant increases in computational cost, which is, when you read the white paper of DeepSeek, and they mention they're using a much, much smaller cluster of older NVIDIA chips that are way less computationally resource intensive. Well, it's because of these architectural changes in design that allows them to do that. So we don't have to go in more than that. We're not going into a machine learning course and how to design system architectures to optimize machine learning techniques. Hopefully this makes sense, because this is the language that you can now interact with artificial intelligent engineers, with people working in machine learning. This is the language and knowledge you need, and for yourself, because this is core information that you having when you go out and want to build your own AI agents from here, develop your applications. You're going to have these agents working for you. You're going to have DeepSeek agents, OpenAI agents, and now when you have these agents working for you building things, you can understand at least, well, who they are, right? You don't need to go home and meet their parents and have a barbecue dinner with their girlfriend and learn about their life story. But if they're going to be working for you, you want to at least get their resume and see if they're hireable for the job, okay? In the next lesson, let's just clarify to make sure it's super crisp and clear this difference, because we're talking about the different architectures and systems. I'm sure you have some questions. I'm going to try to clarify things in a simple, concise way in the next lesson to make this as clear as possible. See you there. So we talked about reinforcement learning and we talked about MoE architecture. Now, you might have some questions. I'm sure some of you do. Maybe you're wondering, well, wait a minute. Are you saying that there's no reinforcement learning for DeepSeek at all? And that's not what I'm saying, right? What I'm trying to illustrate are the different techniques of innovation, which are the focal points as to why these technologies are so stand out, okay? So bottom line is, while both OpenAI and DeepSeek, they both utilize reinforcement learning, there are slightly different ways and to different extents, okay? Because remember, we're taking a bird's eye view here. So let's clarify the two, all right? So OpenAI is heavily reliant on RL. It's been basically a pioneer of RL, reinforcement learning, to train large language models, all right? And OpenAI uses a combination of what we call supervised learning, which we're going to get into in this course. But basically what that is in a nutshell is you are supervising the data that is being taught, all right? Or, okay, in more basic terms, you're training on data that's labeled, all right? So supervised means that that data is labeled. So it's not just getting data and trying to figure out what the data means itself. We're actually deterministically saying this data is this, it means this, it's labeled as such. That's what supervised learning is. And reinforcement learning basically is going to be a combination of that with OpenAI and then fine-tuning the model to improve the performance on specific tasks, all right, without getting deeper than that. But what you can't deny is that OpenAI has demonstrated the power of RL by training models that can master complex systems, complex games, control robots, and all of that wonderful stuff, all right? Now, DeepSeek, actually, if you go into the papers behind it, you're going to see that they emphasize this approach to reinforcement learning. It's pure RL, all right? So it's like a radical approach by focusing heavily on this pure reinforcement learning. Specifically when we talk about the DeepSeek R10 model, because there's different models, and we're going to be using a couple throughout the course, so you're going to see the pros and cons to these models. But what that really means when we say pure RL, it just means that they're relying less on supervised learning to allow the model to learn more autonomously just through the interactions and feedback. Remember, DeepSeek is all about being commodified. It's a compact, optimized version. So they don't want to have all this data, all this crazy amounts of data. So they're letting the machine figure it out by being very clever in the way they allow this to happen. Through reasoning skills, DeepSeek optimizes their models for reasoning tasks. And you can really see the results as we're going to see when it comes to things like generating code, solving math problems, all of that good stuff. All right. So they use RL to train the model to develop strong reasoning abilities, but they're using a pure reinforcement method coupled with this MOE type architecture to create something truly unique and powerful that differentiates itself from the RL technique of innovation, which OpenAI is so famous for. All right, so the key differences are the degree of reliance on supervised learning. OpenAI combines supervised learning with RL, while DeepSeek learns more heavily on pure RL. All right, and it's just important to recognize the importance of reinforcement learning in general in training powerful language models, because really at the fundamental level, it's as obtuse as that. It's taking a ton of data and training a model. However, when we're talking about OpenAI and DeepSeek, it's important to look at how each approach is different. And DeepSeek is really pushing the boundaries of pure RL, focusing on specific areas like reasoning. All right? And remember, bottom line, this field of AI is completely evolving all the time. It's constantly in a state of evolution. So these companies are both likely to continue refining and trading. Technology is constantly evolving and changing and updating. So this isn't the end all be all, you know. This is how these systems have come to be and what they've come to be known for in 2024, okay, and 2025, okay? And I'm sure for years to come. But it's important to understand that it's going to be refined and the methods are going to be, and you never know, there's eureka moments and new innovations that come on top of that, and I'll add videos accordingly. But hopefully that clarifies at least those differences, gives you a little bit better context overall. I think that's a good place for us to stop without getting deeper. And let's move on. Let's move on to the business dynamics between these. I know some of you are here thinking about, man, there's a serious value proposition. If I can take this type of knowledge for consulting for businesses, man, there's so much you can do from here. So I'm excited to talk about cost efficiency in the next lesson. I'll see you there. Let's talk about money. All right. Bottom line, money makes the world go round. I mean, love makes the world meaningful as it turns. But hey, we all can use a little money to do things. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the system. So when it comes to economics 101, well, cost efficiency and optimization, those are the buzzwords that we care about in tech, right? And DeepSeek is no stranger to that. So let's go over it. Strategic resource allocation. DeepSeek essentially has a dynamic resource allocation strategy. It's leveraging cloud services that can then dynamically change the computational power in real time, you know, so it doesn't have to go off the scale. What does that mean? Well, you know, think about just electricity. You know, like imagine you turn on every time you want to turn on the AC because you're hot in the summer, you turn it on to full blast, and that's the only way you can do it is go to full blast. Imagine how much of a waste of money that is and how inefficient it is. No, the fact that you can choose the temperature is a layer of efficiency. Now, when we talk about cloud services, well, we have these services that are online that essentially, when you want to do something with DeepSeek, it can in real time decide on, you know, a more complex version of a number scale, wait a minute, I'm going to allocate this amount of energy for this type of strategy. And it can actually do that in real time. That's fantastic. And that minimizes the costs associated with idle resources, enhancing operational efficiency, all the buzzwords we love to hear in enterprise, all right, business solutions. So it has this innovative model efficiency. And we talked a bit about the architecture, the mixture of experts, and hopefully intuitively you can put the pieces together and think, well, yeah, with an architectural network system in which you have selective specialty divisions, well, that makes sense that only necessary model components during processing are going to be worked and enacted upon when they're needed, and overall that significantly reduces the energy consumption and operational cost. all right? While maintaining high performance and accuracy. I mean, that's always the goal. And it does. I mean, use DeepSeek. It is great. I mean, use it. We're going to use it and we're going to see. The final point is very interesting, something to consider for this course. And what I'm very excited because it's coming up soon, my friends, we're getting there. You've been very patient and I can't wait, but we're actually arriving at the point in which I'm going to stop yapping and we're going to start with the happening. So data process optimization, all right? So there are things in computer science like parallel processing, which just means taking a task and executing that task in multiple funnels, all right? You take a task and then you can process the task in parallel. So you can have multiple ways of handling the task. Don't be confused with concurrency. Concurrency would be dealing with lots of things at once, like a single chef is multitasking, right? Handling multiple orders. Parallelism is doing lots of things at once. So we got one task and multiple chefs in the kitchen, each with their own stove and workplace. They could all be preparing different dishes. The task is get that, party started, get that restaurant going, all right? As an example. But computers do the same thing, right? I mean that's how you optimize resources. Fundamentally, all this artificial intelligence and machine learning, how does it compute? Well, it needs to use processing units, all right? It uses your CPU and it uses your GPU, all right? And how can you optimize processing? Well, there's sequential processing. There's a whole world. Limited parallelism. You can have multiple cores, which you can see. You got like dual, quad core when you buy your MacBook or when you buy a laptop, a Chromebook. And then you have GPUs, graphic processing units, for handling more intensive computational power. And they specialize in parallel tasks. GPUs were originally designed for graphics rendering, which involves performing the same operations on many pixels. That makes them incredibly efficient for parallel process, which also makes them incredibly efficient for what? Well, for artificial intelligence processing, for tons of data processing. So CPUs are good at handling a variety of tasks, but they have limited parallel processing capabilities, but they'll enact upon it in order to create better resource allocation. But GPUs specialize for parallel processing, making them more ideal, right? And when we talk about DeepSeek, they optimize the processing techniques for pruning and parallel processing, making it possible to streamline training phases so you don't have to take forever to train data, reduce the storage needs, accelerate data handling so you can see we can fit and use an LLM that is efficient, like DeepSeek is all-time powerful on our computer with 1 gigabyte. I'm going to show you how to do it privately, offline, where we can have our own LLM on your laptop. I mean, if you have a really, really crappy Chromebook, it might be super, super slow. But if you have like a regular, if you spend $500 on a computer and it's working in good condition, you're going to see we can use it offline. All right? Getting excited. But in modern computing, CPUs and GPUs, they often work together. And essentially, the CPU handles the overall system operations and complex logic, and the GPU takes on the computationally intensive tasks that then benefit from parallel processing. So that, in a nutshell, is the key aspects for cost efficiency and resource optimization in machine learning computation resources, specifically with how DeepSeek is a superstar. It's like I don't know who superstar is these days, but it is the little young thug whatever of hip hop for AI, you know what I mean? Or the TikTok influencer, your favorite one of all time, Mr. Caleb Johnson of Twitch for DeepSeek. Terrible, I know, horrible analogies, but you get it. DeepSeek is the superstar of machine learning when it comes to optimization strategies that work for using LLMs and AI agents, as we're going to see. When I say AI agents, I mean little robots online that can do your bidding for you, build your businesses for you, execute your tasks, do your homework for you. That's the dream. And that's what we're going to be focusing on in this course. Okay, so I think that is really good. I think that's a really good overview in terms of going over these very deep and very compact subjects. They're very deep subjects, and not getting too lost in them, but covering the resumes so we understand what we're dealing with moving forward in this course and in general in technology. Let's stop here, and in the next lesson, let's talk about the future of all this and the implications. See you there. Before we get all gung-ho and talk about all the future incredible developments that are going to happen with AI and how all of our worlds are going to explode into this utopian fantasy where there's universal income and no one has jobs anymore and everyone's best friends with Elon Musk and it's a big Doge party, let's backtrack and also consider the ethical landscape of AI development, all right? Because it's a double-edged sword with technology. It's fantastic in some ways, and it's very cringe in other ways, right? So human-centered ethical framework. So a human-centered ethical framework. So emphasizing the need for AI development to prioritize human welfare, ensuring technologies align with societal values and ethical standards. Now, emphasizing that, I mean, yes, the PR for these companies, in order for them to grow, to gain the trust of society, of its users, and its investors, has to be human-centered. At least it has to be emphasized on the outside. I mean, it's up to regulatory bodies to then do the digging and expose where whatever type of bottlenecks or flaws or vulnerabilities and ethical considerations lie in the development of these technologies. Of course, there's going to be internal development for that as well, especially when you're talking about billions of dollars and people's lives, really. But it's not enough to just have a company say, no, we're ethical, we're working on it. There has to be, of course, an interaction and a dialogue between third-party audits. And of course, even at that stage, you have to then take a look and say, well, what are the agendas and the biases of these third parties, these regulatory bodies? You know, the government doesn't always necessarily have the best interests either. In fact, the government is made up of people that all have their own selfish interests. We know as humans that I believe fundamentally on some level, doing good for others in this altruistic manner is going to lead towards a better quality life for everyone. But we also know that, you know, if you go to Mordor and you want to throw the ring out, it's not that easy. And that's what being human is, all right? So mitigating bias in AI, implementing strategies to identify, reduce biases. We talked about this. We went into the ethics of it. I'm not going to go deeper than that. You know, this isn't a virtue signaling type of course. But it's important to go over it, you know? I mean, this is serious stuff. Global collaboration for ethics, international cooperation among stakeholders. Can we all get along? Yes, it's important ethically that we do. But, you know, of course, it's much more nuanced than that, right? And there's even bad actors that play upon ethical agendas and narratives in order to reap their own benefit as well. So it's not black and white. You know, there's a reason why it's a very, very complex topic. But it's important to discuss because this is very powerful stuff that we're learning about. And I hope that you guys use it for good, what we're going to be doing in this course. Because you can build pretty much anything you want. All right, so what's the global perspective on AI regulation? Well, it's going to be what you probably think it's going to be, right? People want to see diverse regulatory frameworks for AI that have to do with cultural, economic, political contexts. Things have to mesh. It has to seem like this is heading in a direction that's not the Terminator or Terminator 2, all right? And I'm not going to go deeper than that because really it's not what this is about. We have harped on it quite a bit. Okay, but it's important to me, and it should be important to you as well. The importance of collaboration in AI, though, outside of just from a regulatory standpoint, I mean, look, Collaboration in general in technology, where would we be without GitHub, right? You know, or Git Remote. If you're not familiar with that, well, it's the ability to work on a project in teams, okay, in an optimized flow pattern. And that matters, right? If you're working on some code and somebody somewhere else is working on some code, and they trip over your code because they don't see the updates properly, collaborating is one thing, collaborating properly is something else altogether. But we all know that when you work in a team, you can get a lot more done than when you work by yourself, generally speaking. And collaborative efforts among AI organizations enhance innovation by essentially pooling diverse expertise, sharing resources, and addressing ethical challenges collectively. And that ultimately leads to more robust, equitable, and responsible AI technologies that then do what? Well, that then benefits society as a whole. So all of that in mind, ethical considerations, collaboration, these are the good things that come with the responsibility of this power. Let's get to the fun stuff. Future trends, okay? So what's going on here? What are the future trends? What lies ahead for AI technologies? NLP evolution, baby. Natural language processing evolution. So future advancements in NLP will focus on what? Well, enhancing contextual understanding and fluency. That means integrating multimodal data to improve user interactions across diverse applications and industries. Sounds fancy, but all that really means is that you can just go on your phone and say, hey AI, like in your bro Gen Z voice, sus neighbors need secure system on my apartment. And the NLP, given this very, the idiocracy of our language of our times, will actually be able to come up with a robust system for you. Not only that, it'll make a call to the best security local company, find the best deal, implement a security system, maybe even talk to your neighbors for you and find out, hey, they're not too bad, blah, 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 blah. Implement all of that, all right? AI and sustainability initiatives. The integration of AI and sustainability efforts, what is that going to lead to? Well, no brainer that it should drive innovations in resource management, right? We talk about sustainability and trends and NLP, and this is very good. These are positives. I consider myself somewhat of a healthy pessimist. I have optimistic views, and then I challenge them with healthy pessimism. My ex-girlfriend calls it cynicism, but I disagree with that. Anyway, we're not together. So what do I mean? Well, okay, you must feel, if you work in technology, for those of you who don't, maybe you don't feel this at all. But those of you who do might agree with me that, you know what? There's a lot of companies that are downsizing right now. If you're working in sales, if you're working in customer service, if you can have AI agents speaking like me, if I can have an AI agent clone, that's me doing this, what I'm doing right now with you, what does that leave me to do? Where does that leave me? All the customer service jobs, all the programming jobs. We talked about abstractions and layers, assembly code, lower level code, higher level code. If you can just speak, as we're going to do in this course, we're going to have programmers build code for us and build applications. We're just going to speak. Well, we're going to text, but you get the drift. Where does that leave the future of programmers? There are millions and millions and millions of jobs at stake here, guys. I don't know. And I'm not going to give you some kind of AI and sustainability, it's all going to be great, and we're all going to have, universal income. And I'm not going down that path. I'm not going down the heavy cynic path either and say, it's going to be nuclear war and no one's going to have a job. Because who knows? Nobody knows. We can't predict the future. And that's the last point I'm going to leave you with. You're going to see these AI trading bots online that say, hey, I can do your sport bets for you. I can predict it with AI. You might be even tempted at the end of my course to use Bolt DIY and Web UI and the browser and these AI agents and ask them to go build you an AI bot. They can do that. But can AI bots predict the future? Can they infer space-time complexity with nth possibilities? No, they cannot do that. Not yet, anyway. So what is the future? Well, yes, scams and potential, doomsday clock approaching closer to its hour, all sorts of, job cuts, but also creative growth, sustainability, NLP evolution, better communication, more power for the people. You can put DeepSeek privately on your phone. It can run on your phone. DeepSeek can run on your computer. That means no one's taking your data. And you have this incredible, complex system that can help you understand and reason and build all sorts of wonderful things. So the future trends are clear, but what the future will be shall remain a mystery. It's part of the fun of being alive, part of the fun of taking this course. One thing's for sure about the future. In the next section, we're going to start building. I think we've gone through and covered all the foundation here for building AI agents, because now we understand, you should understand what's an LLM, what's NLP processing, what's the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning, what's the difference between reinforcement learning and pure reinforcement, what's the difference between OpenAI and DeepSeek, fundamentally, the pros, the cons, the ups, the downs. This is great, guys. If you're starting to speak the language and this is making sense to you, I now think you are ready. You've mastered your white belt. Let's move over to whatever the next one would be. I don't even know. Or maybe yellow is the first one. I don't know. Move on to the belt color number 2. We'll say white's the first one. Now you're going on to green. All right, green belt is what? I'll see you in the next section where we're going to start building anything you want. We're going to build games together. We're going to build applications together. It's time to get techie, all right, without any tech coding knowledge. All right, I'm going to go through everything with you. And again, I will cover fundamental coding like OOP and what's going on under the hood, but you can skip past that. I encourage you not to if you're coming in from a non-tech background. Obviously, if you're coming from a tech background, skip into whatever you want because you already have that foundation. You're probably just here to understand, how does Bolt DIY work? How do I get these AI agents to build for me? What's going on in the technology these days? But for those of you who are new, I encourage you to understand like the fundamentals of OOP and what are these objects and what is happening under the hood with all the logic and reasoning and running for loops and instances and building things out. Things that this might all sound like gibberish to you, but it's what's happening under the hood. It's what this AI is going to build for us. And it's actually not that complicated to understand the core fundamentals, which, understanding how to implement them yourselves takes years as developers, but understanding the core and what they do, that's something you can start with and is highly important in my opinion. And like Steve Jobs said, everybody should learn how to code. And now we're entering a world where everybody should learn how to understand how AI agents learn to code. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next lesson. Every great journey must start somewhere. And for us, it's going to start on your computer at Google, okay? Now, don't worry. What we're going to do in this lesson is some basic prompting and just checking out DeepSeek, very similar to ChatGPT. But it's like wax on or wax off. We're going Miyagi here. Yes, we are going to get agents to build games, build applications. We're going to download an entire LLM locally in this course. We're going to combine different DIY, UI, GitHub repos with DeepSeek to build multi-level agents working for us and see a whole team of engineers of agents building applications for us right in our very eyes. It's going to get there, but we need to start at the very, very beginning. And the very beginning is usually my favorite part because it's like all the anticipation. So Are you guys ready? Let's do it. Let's dive in. I'm excited to go on this quest with you guys and to learn and test out so much amazing, amazing technology. All right. Google in itself is amazing, but this course has very little to do with Google. We will work actually with the Google Gemini Vision API in order to produce results from our AI agents that can then be interpreted visually. It's going to be very cool. But that's at the very end. I'm getting ahead of myself. The very first thing I want you to do is go to your URL, and we want to go to chat.deepseek.com. Hit enter. Okay. Now it's going to verify that you are human. And then what do we see? Well, we get to this web page that's basically a very, very simple, a deceivingly simple UI. And for those of you who have worked with ChatGPT, we could go there as well. ChatGPT. It's quite similar, right? And the idea here is that you can ask it anything you want or say whatever you want. And through NLP, which we discussed in the previous section, so if you're not sure how that works, please go back. But you'll get a response. You'll get a very human-like response with super intelligence. So I want you to go ahead and give it a shot. You do not need an account. It may ask you to create an account. If it does, it's free. You can link it up to your Gmail. It's the fastest way to do it, and just go through the auth. But make sure you do that and you get to this dashboard. You can pause the video. Once you're here, let's all ask it a question. I want you to ask it one question that you have regarding AI agents and a question about anything, that has to do with what we're building today. It could be something like, what can I use AI agents to build? Can I streamline emails and small businesses with AI agents? Can I build a personal assistant with DeepSeek? Ask it any question. It's a better, I'm not going to lie, it's a smart, okay, you know what? It's not better than me. I'm better than DeepSeek because I'm just more interesting because of who I am and my unique value, the life experiences. I'll put that out there. Am I smarter than DeepSeek? Not even close. Well, it's relative, street smarts, but general intelligence? No. So go ahead, ask the question. I'm going to ask it, hey, DeepSeek. You don't have to say that, by the way. When you're prompting, which is basically the beginning of prompt engineering, you can just go down to the nitty gritty. It's going to infer sentence structure. So you could your spelling could be wrong. You can have very strangely fragmented sentences, and it should still infer as long as you hit the right keywords. For example, I could ask it, when does milk go bad generally? But I'm going to write it like this. We do's milk. All right, let me zoom in so you can see. We do's milk gone yuck. All right? So let's see. This is a good test for inference. Let's see what it makes of we do's milk gone yuck. Look at that. Look at what it did. This is insane. It seems like you might be trying to say something about milk going bad or tasting yuck. If your milk goes bad or has gone bad, here are some tips. Check the smell. Look at the texture, taste. So this is insane. This is inference. And hopefully this illustrates the difference between speaking to somebody that's an actual person on the other end, who if they saw this, they would try to infer what the heck you're talking about, versus a machine. Or speaking to an automation, even a better analogy, texting with an automation, a program, where the program has to find the keywords. And if it doesn't understand what these words are, it has no idea what you're talking about. We are texting with a program that can infer what it means like a human and do it better than most people can, as you can see. Because if somebody texted me this, we do's milk on yuck, I would tell them, man, how many drinks did you have? Go get sober, relax, take it easy, hit me up later. Something like that. So I want you to try something like that. Take a sentence, your question that you had previously, And now restructure that sentence in a way that makes no sense, remove some of the wording, misspell the word, cut it up, and see how much you can cut it up so that the AI still understands what you're saying. And I would encourage you to refresh the instance, because otherwise it'll keep the history and it'll be like cheating. So you'd want to refresh the page each time you do it. And this is the introduction to prompt engineering and prompt testing. So go ahead, have fun with that. We have a long mountain, a big mountain to climb. There's quite a journey ahead of us. So let's have some fun first. Base camp, enjoy, and I'll see you in the next lesson whenever you're ready for more. Okay, bye. Okay, we come back. We come back. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's see actually if our AI can understand what this means. We kumi back. Sounds like you're excited about something. If you're trying to say we're coming back, that's awesome. You know what? Close enough. This is quite ridiculous. You know, there's a context window of what should be within the scope in order to succeed or have a success rate. And if you provide the type of expectations which break the scope of what is practical reasoning, then it should be broken. What do I mean by that? Well, if you type stuff in that's so stupid and it makes no sense, that AI shouldn't understand it because it's so bad that no one should understand it, including yourself, because it's nonsensical, okay? And that's where you would draw the lines. But welcome back, everybody. I hope you had fun and also saw some insight into playing around with prompting. Now, if you've prompted a million times already and you just want to move forward, well, that's what we're here to do. All right. For those of you who have no programming experience, I think you're going to enjoy this. We're going to build a game in our UI DeepSeek website, no strings attached, and we're going to do it just by a few prompts. Now, later on in the course, we're going to download Visual Studio Code, and we're going to see how with extensions, we can have AI agents building games for us on a more professional level. This, though, again, is we're at the bottom of the mountain, and you must take your time. I'm trying to do some kind of Star Wars. That was weird. Okay. But, you know, patience, patience, patience. All right, so how can we build a game? Well, something super cool, a feature I want to show you about DeepSeek, is that you can ask it to build you a game. And if you ask it to build you a game in HTML, you'll actually be able to check it out. So HTML, by the way, basically stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the foundation of every web page you see on the internet. It's basically, think of it as a blueprint or a skeleton. It's what creates what we're seeing here, this generated visuals that we are seeing here. But it's not the fancy colors, the interactive buttons. That's done with CSS and JavaScript. HTML is all about the structure. Okay, so the headings, paragraphs, images, links, forms, all that stuff. All right, so telling you that, can we build HTML games? Just here on DeepSeek.com, just by asking it to you. Well, I'm here to tell you we can. So let's try it out. Build a game. You can prompt with me for now. Build a game, and of course, by the way, your output is going to always be different than mine to an extent. And then it's really up to the skills you're going to learn in this course and the skills that you have in order to modify to get to the solutions that work for you. Because in programming and in computer science, there's rarely only ever one solution. In fact, if you ever come across a project where they tell you there's only one solution, the project is inherently flawed. So, or it's extremely, extremely niche, all right? Or up against a wall. So build a game in HTML, all right? So we're going to start with this. It's important to write that we want it in HTML. And we can choose a game. So we'll say of tic-tac-toe. Let's start with a simple game like that, all right? So let's see. Let's hit enter. Sure, below is a simple implementation of tic-tac-toe. Now take a look what it's doing. Basically, it's responding to us, and yes, DeepSeek is known to have a good level of accuracy with its code in mathematics, comparable to OpenAI. Now, nothing is perfect, including these LLMs, so there's some trial and error that's going to we're going to take place in this course, especially as we go from trying to make tic-tac-toe to a more complex multi-tech stack application, okay? But just to show you, this tic-tac-toe game is being created out. Look at this. We've got our HTML, so this is how you instantiate HTML in text format for the interpreter. We're bringing in our headers, so we have all the metadata coming in here, the title of the game. Now we have even some styling, because you can do your CSS and your script and your JS all in your HTML file if you bring in the tags. So this is all styling. We can see here, we're centering things. Our agent is building this. It's not really an agent just yet. We can say our LLM is showing us this and showing us how to build it. And so we have basically different classes here for the different pieces of our game, like the board, the cell. If you hover over a cell, the background color changes to this hex code. All right? We're going to see this. We're going to see if this actually works. And then underneath, now we have our actual HTML that shows the cells. So this is creating basically our game cells. And then underneath that, what do we see? Script. This is JavaScript. JavaScript is basically the engine that gets things to work on your web pages, on your games. All right? So we're getting everything here. DeepSeek is, the reason why I'm going through this, I want to show you that we're getting everything. This takes, usually if you go to a boot camp for web development, back in the day or even today, this would be 3 months of studying hard, or a month of never sleeping and studying to get to this point. And then it takes years to actually be good at it. And DeepSeek made this for us in a few moments. I mean, look at this. Constant board. So it understands ES5. It's doing proper practices. It's basically creating the board. It's creating the message. We've got our player. It has an array here to keep track of the changes with game state. We can see we've got winning conditions over here for the different areas of our cells. Okay, we see functions. So what happens when we click on a cell? We need to target, because it's a website, so we're using basically the DOM. So everything happens with these events. So you have to handle these events accordingly. It does all of this. It knows this. I could code this. It would take me a while. Check for the winner. This is done. All right. Now, how well does it work off the first round? And by the way, again, if your code looks different, that's normal. It should. If it looked exactly the same, then it would be a scam. It wouldn't be working, right? It would be some automations in the back, and they'd be hoping that you say the same question every time. It would be a ridiculous, impossible scam. But this, well, let's see if this actually works. Let's click on, you should see run HTML. So we're going to click on it. And now, this was an AI agentic action. Because what just happened here? Well, it's not a full AI agentic action. It's really just another automated response in which the program is set up in order to execute HTML to make DeepSeek more interactive. But I want to differentiate, because now we're actually running the game, and the agent technically started the game for us to run. So I see here we got the squares, and they're changing that white tone that we saw in the CSS to create an off gray. This is great. Wow. And if I click, let's see if this works. So I'm going to do an X. All right. And now I'm going to put an O. Fine. I'm going to do an X. Okay. We'll have another O. I know not the best player. And an X. Player X wins. Do you see what we just did here? I mean, look. For those of you who are programmers and you're living in the, the jaded age of AI and web programming, and you have ChatGPT, I got into this. There was no LLMs. There was nothing. This is incredible, okay? This is designed and built and works for us from one prompt. This is the power. So Hopefully your game works for you. If you ran into an issue with your game, you can continue to work on your game with your LLM. This is not the end all be all. There is contextual history. Now, the history is going to get convoluted the more you work on it, so you have to get good at figuring out basically which check parts do you want to save your code in your progress to come back to it and pay attention to when there's hallucinations or mistakes being made, because these machines are not perfect because humans are not perfect and we built them, therefore they're not going to be perfect. They're just tools, guys. They're just tools. But for example, if I wanted to say, enhance this game by adding some cool colors and animations and a scoreboard to keep track of the winner, which displays the results afterwards. All right, so you can fix your game working with your AI to do it without coding, right? This is code, but we're not coding. We're basically managing our developer. And let's hit OK. And let's see what this does. And again, your results could be different than mine, but your job as an engineer, it doesn't matter. Or your job as a technologist, somebody working in technology, is to understand the multi-complexities of problem solving on a fundamental level. All right, take a look. All right, we are going here. Okay. Look, you see we're getting keyframes now. We're getting some color, not just off gray, little animation popping. We're getting a scoreboard starting with 0, which makes sense. And we're going to see the JavaScript to update. So we're going to get a function in real time here that's probably going to update it. Let's see. Check for winner. Handle cell click. If you won, update scoreboard. And update scoreboard is here. So this is lexical, and this is basically hoisting in JavaScript. It's basically just where function declarations are moved to the top of their containing scope during the compilation phase. So before the code actually executed. So you see what I'm doing by saying this to you? No, I'm not just trying to be a smarty pants and annoy you. I'm proving that it's still important to understand the fundamentals of your language, learn your programming languages, because that way you will do so much more and have such a deeper understanding of what's going on when you're building and just be a better builder, whether or not you use AI, whether or not. All right. Okay, so let's run this updated code and see what we get. All right, we got player X and player 0. So you see what's different already is that we have a scoreboard. And we've got some color with the reset game going on here. They changed the colors to black and gray. All right, it's not as colorful as I was hoping it to be, but it's something. Let's click. Okay, we got a red on the X. Let's do an O. Blue on the O. Very nice. X, red, O, X wins again. Player X wins, and the scoreboard now gets updated. If we reset the game, the scoreboard remains updated. The changes have been successfully implemented without a single line of code. I didn't even need to correct code. I literally had to do nothing. Guys, now, you may not have been as lucky as me. You may have to go in, and if you have a mistake and something's not working, go back and forth and try to understand what's going on as you go, all right? But if you have no coding experience, I suggest you to make a very, very simple type of game like tic-tac-toe. If you have developmental experience, you could try to make something more advanced. But, you know, it's totally up to you and your time frame. We've got a whole lot more to cover. But hopefully, this just goes to show you how powerful this is. And also, by doing it with me, somebody who's been, I've been developing for 8 years. I have a comp sci degree. I've worked in a lot of different sectors in technology as a software developer. So you're getting my side view and the tidbits as we go along, which I think really are important to pay attention to give you a more rounded understanding of just how powerful this stuff is. The better you understand it, the better you can use it to consult, to build, and to apply for your own personal and professional endeavors. All right, guys, we'll stop here. Have fun. Your homework, make a game, make your own game. Don't just copy me, don't be an NPC. And whenever you're ready, I'll see you in the next lesson where it's time to take a look at enough with this LLM stealing our data. And you know, this is in China, right, DeepSeek? Everything I type, these keystrokes, they're all being logged. Everything's being logged. What if I told you I could take all of this and put it on my computer, put it on your computer? China gets cut out of the picture. In fact, the internet gets cut out of the picture. It's just between you and your own private way of asking this LLM to get whatever, build whatever, do whatever. That's totally up to you. I don't want to know about it. Well, I do want to know about it if it's cool and interesting, but it better be cool and interesting. But guys, I'm going to show you how to do that. You can't do that easily with LLMs at the level of power that DeepSeek offers you, okay? I'm going to show you how you can do that. We're going to learn about Ollama. We're going to learn about Search DeepSeek. We've got some great stuff coming up, guys. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye. Man, I love my game. Oh, X, O, X, O, X, O, X. Oh, wins. Oh, hey guys, welcome back. Okay, so hopefully you built your game out. You had fun. You know, this is really this is lightning speed. This is warp speed if you watched Spaceballs before. You're basically entering a zone here where you get a full game in JavaScript, HTML, CSS that you can play and see in action that gets coded for you and built for you and interacted with. Now the difference here is that we are the operator. We are the middle step, right? Like this AI agent is not an AI agent because there's no agency. Nothing is happening autonomously here. We're asking DeepSeek to build us a game. We're taking a look at it. We're testing it. We're asking it to change things. We're taking a look at it. If it was truly autonomous, we could say, hey, build the game and, you know, talk to us when it's ready. And it would go ahead and start building everything. Boom. And we could even have another AI like Gemini or ChatGPT, spoiler alert, act as the middle person to manage and make sure everything is operating, the operator, smoothly, as we're going to see later on. All right, guys. But hopefully, you know, we're building up an appetite. That's really the point here, and we're learning as we go. So now that we've gone over what DeepSeek is, OpenAI is, and we've built our first game without breaking too much of a sweat, I hope, the next thing we want to do is go to Ollama, if I can spell, Ollama.com. What is the deal? What is this Ollama thing? Well, there's a llama. Are there actual llamas? No. It's just, you know, they like llamas. What does it say, though? It says, get up and running with large language models. Well, we're already doing that, right? We can do that on ChatGPT. We can do that with DeepSeek, Grok on X. We can do that. There's a lot of options out there now. What makes this different? Okay. Well, the idea behind Ollama is very simple, but also powerful. The idea is that you don't have to send your data to the cloud anymore to access all this wonderful AI capability. With Ollama, what you can do is download entire AI models to your computer and run them directly on your computer. Now, if you have a very, very slow computer or a computer that you bought for $100, like a Chromebook that doesn't have any memory, you're not going to be able to do this, but you can still go through this. But if you have a decent computer, you spent a few $100 on, you know, and it has a few gigs of memory on it, extra, and it can run, you know, I've got the M2 chip, which is great, but even if you have like an M1 chip, or you just have a really good Intel, talking about Mac here, I'm going to tell you something. You can actually run this. You can run these large language models yourself, and you don't need a GPU. Is that not mind-blowing? You can have all of the inference of the world, the strongest, on your computer offline. Now that is incredible. If you're not really understanding the benefits, well, we'll see throughout the course. But for now, what I want you to think about, one of the most important benefits of this is complete control. And with complete control comes complete privacy. In today's world, I don't have to tell you privacy is more important than ever. When you use cloud-based AI tools, there's always the risk of your data being processed. Right? Well, more than just a risk. It is. It's stored, it's processed, it's shared with third parties. When you use Ollama, all of that's gone. No external servers, no data sent to the cloud. You have full control. Also means there's no internet dependency. So anything that you want to build, you don't have to worry about latency. You don't have to worry about it having to connect online for it to work. Cost efficiency, there's no more fees involved. It's totally free. You're just running it on your computer. All right? Seamless integration with other tools. The list goes on and on. What may sound very simple is actually extremely powerful. It's scalable for developers. It empowers you as a creator. I could go on and on. For now, I just want you to let that sink in. Ollama is basically a powerful platform that allows you to run powerful AI models locally on your own computer, cutting off the need for constant internet connection, cloud services, expensive API callers. It's a game changer. Welcome to the changed game. Player one ready, okay? I'll see you in the next lesson where we will download Ollama, get this up and running, and put the pedal to the metal. I'll see you there. I hope you're excited because we're about to embark on a journey where we will have our own LLM running locally on our computers, okay? And again, if your laptop has no space, you can just watch these videos, as long as you're learning and you can see for yourself the power here. And once we have it built locally, we're going to be able to build applications privately and locally from our own computers, okay? So the very first thing I want you to do is download. It's available for Mac, Linux, and Windows. Once it's downloaded, go through all the steps and installations. I already have it downloaded. It should be self-explanatory. Just follow the steps. Okay, so I'm assuming you downloaded it. I want to make sure that you have it open. So you see this icon here, this symbol? You should see that up and running on your computer as an application. So I want you to have that open and running. Now, I want you to open up your terminal. So you're going to open up your terminal, your command shell. Let me open up a new instance here. And let's go into the desktop. Let's clear everything. All right. Let me make this bigger so you can see this better. All right. Maybe it's too big. I'm just going to fix it. Okay. So you have your shell open. Now, this, by the way, if you have no idea what this is, your terminal is a tool on the computer that allows you to type text commands. So it's basically you're getting rid of the GUI, of all these, you're used to seeing folders, you open them up, and we don't need any of that. This is basically the proper way to talk to your computer directly, bypassing all those stupid graphical interfaces that we're used to using. All right. Now, it's important to have some basic familiarity if you're going to be doing anything in AI, even just basic level. So don't be scared of this. It's literally just typing into it and getting your responses. And it's important to use this because it's going to save you a ton of time. It's way more efficient. Now, having the terminal up, we want to go back to Ollama.com and we want to look for DeepSeek R1. And type that into the search models up here, and you're going to get to a page of DeepSeek, because Ollama can handle different types of LLMs to download, but we're going to look at DeepSeek because it's free and it's super optimal. And most of you should be able to download it on your computer and use it without a GPU, which is incredible. So once you get to this page, you're going to see that we have different types of information. And I don't want you to get nervous looking at this and being like, well, what the heck is all this stuff? because it's quite simple. You just need to understand the jargon. So DeepSeek R1 refers to basically a family of language models. So there are many different models we can use. And each model offers different sizes. And these different sizes have different parameters, different licenses perhaps. MIT license means it's an open license, okay? But like all other LLMs, or many of them, you're going to have these different sizes that we can use. The most important distinction is usually the params. We're going to look at the number of parameters. What are parameters in machine learning? Well, parameters are, you think of them like knobs. The model uses them to learn and store information. So the more parameters, it very basically means the more powerful the model. But if it's more powerful and there's more parameters, the more memory it's going to take. So when you see 1.5 and 14 and 8, these are the number of parameters in terms of B, which is billions. So 1.5 billion parameters may sound like a lot, but this is actually relatively smaller, hence it's the distilled version, compared to 70 billion. Now, again though, comparatively, this is still distilled, so it's smaller than the 671 billion standard of R1, which here, we can see over here, is very, very large. The key takeaway here is that the parameters are a crucial factor in determining the capability of a large language model. These are all the models that are available for us to use. Let's stop here, and in the next lesson, let's actually go ahead and use one of these models. I'll see you there. Okay, so we talked about how DeepSeek has different models we could use, which are based on the parameters. And we took a look at the smaller parameters versus large, and now you should have an understanding, okay, so this is 1.5 billion, 7 billion. Which one should we take? Well, I suggest going with the 7 billion. It's 4.7 gigabytes, so you need to have that much space. But of course, you could do the 1.5 if your computer is, if you don't have that much space. But I'd recommend the 7 billion. And what you want to do is then just copy from the clipboard this command. And this is assuming that now you have Ollama installed, right? The command Ollama is not going to register in your terminal if it's not globally installed. To install it, you got to go back to ollama.com. Well, just to straight up the home page and download. Okay, follow the instructions. And we can see here with 7B, you get the model, Qwen2, parameter 7.6. There's a quantization parameter. We don't have to get so deep in it. The license is open, so you can check the permission of it if you want to get more details. But what we're going to do for the purposes of this course is just get this up and running first and foremost. So we're going to go to the terminal, and we're going to paste in the command. That's it. Ollama run DeepSeek R1 version 7 billion. All right, and let's hit enter. Now, if you successfully installed Ollama, you're going to see that it is working. You see that? We're thinking right here, and we are working, and we are running Ollama. Now, if it's the first time you're doing it, then it may go through the downloading process and then get to this. But once it's on your computer, to test it, what I want you to do is ask, what model are you running? And there you go. We're getting a response. Hi, I'm DeepSeek R1, an AI assistant independently developed by the Chinese company DeepSeek Incorporated. All right. Now, if you get to that and you get this response, of course, it doesn't have to be word for word the same as I am. It shouldn't be. Then congratulations. You are now running your very own local LLM. No strings attached. No wireless strings attached either. And we're going to top off this lesson by doing something a little crazy. Now, when we do it, I'm going to get disconnected to you from a second, but then you can always come back on after. I want you to turn off the Wi-Fi. All right? Turn off your Wi-Fi and ask your DeepSeek whatever you want. I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi. I'm going to say, hey, how many dogs are there on planet Earth? I have to figure out the best way to answer this. Question's pretty big. single dogs. I know there are millions of dogs, pet dogs. Okay, so we're going off on all the reasoning and responses that there are certainly millions of dogs globally. Getting exact numbers is going to require. This is fantastic. You know, it's giving me a whole breakdown and blueprint of how to go about figuring it out. It's giving me some correct information, suggestions. I'm completely disconnected from the internet. I want you to do the same thing. If you're disconnected, it should still work. Congratulations. You just took the blue pill. You're out of the matrix, my friend. Okay. All right. I'm excited. Clearly you can tell. Get that going. Once that's moving, once you have that working, proceed to the next lesson. It's time to do some building, my friend, offline. But you still have to, go back online because we've got more lessons to do. And yeah, I'm still online. I'll see you there. Good for me. It's really delicious. Shouldn't have been a question. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee while I wait for that. Acknowledge their love for coffee. Wow, it's really got its game together. Let's get to the answer. Caffeine, the active compound in coffee, can have varying effects. Welcome back, everybody. So, we are on the precipice of great things. Listen, if you got this working, congratulations, and I cannot stress enough how impressed I am and how impressed you should be. We are running. I know it's just some text, but no, this isn't Elijah. This isn't automated responses, maybe a little bit of linear regression thrown in the 90s. We are running a 7 billion parameter LLM on a basic MacBook without a dedicated GPU or whatever your computer is. I mean, you might have some kind of incredible thing going already. But if you just have a regular computer, this is a testament to advancements in software optimization and hardware capabilities. How is this possible? Well, it's through, if we go back here, we take a look. Quantization, very, very important. All right. This technique, we are quantizing the precision of the model's weights. The parameters have weights, which is the numbers that it uses to calculate. So instead of using 32-bit floating point numbers, you could use 8-bit integers. So, for example, I'm just saying, imagine you're using a more optimal approach which drastically reduces the model size and the memory footprint, making it easier to run on less powerful hardware. Picture it like lossy compression. Model optimization. I said it's just a regular laptop, but regular laptops today are quite impressive. Now, there are some limitations with the 7B model. It's going to run a little bit more slower, waiting for the responses if you don't have a GPU. But the bottom line is that it's becoming more and more feasible to run LLMs on basic computers. That should be eye-opening. This is where we are headed, folks. We are headed there now and very, very fast. I wanted to stop there for a second just to take a look at the view. We started at base camp and we've climbed our first, 500 feet or something like that as we're getting to the top of this mountain. Take a look at the view, take a break, and in the next lesson, let's build a website. I don't care if you've never programmed. Now you're a website developer. I'll see you there. Bye-bye. Why, hello. Okay, it's time to step things up. You guys ready? Okay. Buckle up. Things are about to get a little bit more heated. So what I want to do in this lesson, now that we have Ollama running for us, our own LLM privately on our computer, now we can build whatever we want. And actually, yes, I want to build a website from scratch. Let's roll up our sleeves and do this. So I'm going to say, build a website for me, or build a resume / blog style website template for me. My name is, put your name here, Clarion North, and you could add some information about yourself. I'm just gonna make some stuff up. I have 3 years experience in TypeScript and 8 years in React, and I love to play guitar, and I am a web developer and a marketing expert. And now my focus is on LLMs and AI. All right, so you can have your own custom version of this. But once you have all the details, pertinent details, don't go totally overboard because we're using 7B, but you can put in a few sentences. Let's hit enter and let's see what we get, okay? Exciting times, exciting time. Okay, so first I need to identify the key information. Notice how DeepSeek is thinking, it's explaining its thought process, and then it's moving towards building. So it's saying, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. We've got the information here set up in a more structured format. Template is going to serve purposes whether they're looking for resume or blog. Structuring the header, so it's being flexible, including all the sections. And there's a template structure. And here comes code. Beautiful. So we're seeing the HTML code. So this should already now look familiar because we built that tic-tac-toe game previously. And now we are building this resume code over here. So we see we have the HTML, and it's going. It's going. I mean, this is happening locally. There's no API call, guys. This isn't going, in my mind, I used to imagine going into some warehouse of data, being processed with all these little parameter gnomes that have genius minds, and they float and they talk to each other and with weights. No, this is just happening on the computer. So we're seeing the header, web developer, AI expert. This is building out everything, and you should be building out your own version of it. And once this is done, we'll go through it together. Okay, so we've got the thought process, we've got the actual code, and then we have a summary. So key features, professional bio, skill list, and you're going to have your own thing. But I want to just show you my process, and then I want you to apply a similar process to the way that then you take that information and move forward. That is how problem solving works, right? We are dynamic problem solvers. Okay, we're not hard coders here. We're not NPCs, as far as we know. Okay, so the code snippet. This code shows, we got some design over here, skills. So we've got a lot of styling. We've got the body over here. We've got GitHub links that we could add, LinkedIn, Twitter. This looks really good. I want to take this HTML. I'm going to take the whole thing over here and copy it. This is going to be the hard work that I'm going to do with you. So I want you to do the same thing. Take all the HTML from where the doc type starts all the way to where the HTML ends, because it's opening a tag and then closing a tag, and that's where the information goes, so that that can be then interpreted when these elements are being generated. Okay? We're going to copy this. Then I want you to go to a website. I want you to go to liveweave.com. I just went there again just to show you to go there. So liveweave.com, and what this is basically a sandbox where you can build out websites and see them in action basically be generated for you in real time, so you don't have to do all that work locally on your computer. It gets the job done for you. And we see we've got HTML, we can add our JavaScript files over here, and our styling would go over here. This is called separation of concerns. You can write all of your JavaScript and your styling in your HTML page, as we saw previously, but when you're scaling and building professional projects and you're not a junior developer, you'll know that that is not a good idea because it's just logical. When you separations of concern, think about it. As you build more and more complex applications, wouldn't it be better to separate your languages? And that's really on the surface. Then that could get much more modular, right? Let's separate your components. Separate your state logic from your stateless logic. Now we're getting it. Now we're getting deeper. It's okay if you don't know what that means. That's what LLMs are here for. That's what I'm here for. So what I want you to do is take the code that you generated or that DeepSeek created for us and paste it over the code that was there. And if we take a look at the bottom, we're going to see what? Well, there we go. We see a web page. This is a web page just created like that instantly. We see our name, Clarion North. Well, your name, whatever that's going to be. I have about me. Look at this. Look at this. Featured. There's even contact information. Okay, now it's not the most best styled web application to start, but this is a great start. This is a great start. Actually, we can take it, and this is going to be your homework, go ahead and style it out. Make it better. Get it to work. And if you copy and paste the code, and let's say you pasted it incorrectly because you don't understand how tags work and you're not closing your tag properly, or there's a mistake in the code, then your job is to go back to the terminal and debug. Take the error that you're seeing, like if I were to, let's say, do this, and if I were to just delete some of this, and if you start to see weird stuff like this, your job is then to interpret what is happening and act as an operator to feed that information back to the LLM so that the LLM can then work on it, like a middleman, all right? The middleman is you. And when we get more advanced in the course, what we do essentially is we remove you from the equation, okay? But right now, I want you to do that. So what I'm going to do, though, since it was working for me, I'm actually just going to try to make this look better. So I'm going to say, it's a great start. I love a little encouragement. Let's make it much more nicely centered and modern styling and coloring and separate the CSS and even add some animation and give me the full code in separate files of CSS, that's the styling, cascading style sheets, JS, that's the JavaScript, remember, and HTML. All right, let's see what it does. Okay, so I skipped through because it's quite a lot of code and there was no reason for you guys to wait through it. So I'm going to try this code and let's see how it looks. So we've got the HTML here. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. I still see that the CSS is tied into it, I think. Yeah. Head body, projects, class theme. There's a section, contact form. Okay, it actually didn't separate out the code, but that's okay. Let's see how this looks. It definitely added more code, I think. Yeah, much more. Yeah. So there's some kind of weird blue here. I'm going to get rid of that. This is coming from the header. So this is called using your logic. Header comes at the top. I could see there's an issue happening here. I'm going to remove this color. You can tell it's trying to do a blur at the top, but it's not really working. We're going to do the backdrop filter. Okay, it's trying to create a nav bar. It's coming together. You can send a message. Let's see this. Can I actually send a message? Testing. Will this go to mail? I mean, obviously there's no API, but I'm wondering if it's going to open up the mail too. No, it's just refreshing. Well, there's the nav. It's just that the nav is not fully functional. Okay, so we've got more code, but it's not necessarily working. So it's going to take time to debug. We're the middlemen. We can work on this with our AI to get it to work as its cheerleader if we can point it in the right direction. That's a skill that takes time and effort. So I want you to go ahead and work on it. Work on your own resume. And when you get it to a point where you like it, please go to the Discord and feel free to share what you did. I'd love to see it. Okay, great work. I'll see you in the next lesson. Following section, we're going to build out a multi-level autonomous system for deploying full stack applications using Bolt DIY. If that makes no sense, then don't worry, we're going to explain it all. For those of you who are more advanced and you know what GitHub is and you know what Node.js is, please feel free to skip through most of the second video. All you really need to do is go to bolt.diy and install the dependencies and get the project up and running locally for those of you who have programming experience. If that all sounds like gibberish, then go through the next video. We'll explain it step by step. Trying to make this as modular as possible and accessible, because really this is accessible stuff on multiple levels. And I think it can be beneficial to both people curious in the space and professionals alike. Okay? All right, that's it, guys. I'll see you later on. Bye-bye. This section is going to be awesome because now that we've installed DeepSeek locally and we're getting our hands dirty, building our own websites, acting as an operator, sort of just managing the AI and correcting it and then moving things and testing stuff ourselves, it's time to remove ourselves from the equation. Wouldn't it be nice to wake up and go to work while you stay at home and play video games all day? That's pretty much what I'm saying here. That's the idea. The idea is that you remove yourself from the work, essentially. I mean, the video games, I just threw that in, for good measure. But is this possible? Yes. This is what AI agency is. Now, instead of going into it again and long lectures and blah, 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 which we've already covered, and you can go back to the presentation slides. Hey, I think they're actually pretty entertaining too. That's just me. But we're not doing that. We're gonna build and learn through building. It's the best way to learn, in my opinion. At least that's what works best for me. So what I want you to do, let's put this application aside. I want you to go open up a URL, which is bolt.diy, do it yourself. All right? So I want you to go to bolt.diy. Now, when you do that, something funny is going to happen. You're going to get redirected to github.com/StackBlitz Labs, which is the company that developed Bolt DIY. All right, two things I'm going to answer. What the heck is GitHub and what the heck is Bolt DIY? And again, if you know what this is, you can just skip forward. But GitHub basically is like a giant online storage space for code, okay? Developers, programmers, we use GitHub to save our projects, track the changes, and then collaborate with other people. And it has a Git flow model, which makes actually adding and making changes. You see here, you keep track of when changes happen. They're called commits. You can then go see the changes. You don't overwrite other people's work. It's a great flow system for building projects together. And it's used, well, GitHub is one open source version, but there are different kinds as well. There's GitLab, there's Bitbucket, but they all exist for that reason, for the same reason, all right? So think of it just like Google Drive, but for code, all right? And of course, it has a lot more functionality than that, but that is what it is, all right? So since we're starting to get deeper, I want you to be brave and move into GitHub. And now we're going to work with this StackBlitz Labs project, which is going to essentially implement multiple AI agents for us to build our code out. So I want you to think of Bolt DIY. It's an AI-powered coding assistant. It's going to help us build web applications by using the AI to not just generate the code, but actually deploy the code for us as it generates code and answers questions. So we're not really at home playing video games. There's no such thing as passive income. It's a myth. But we remove ourselves from the monotonous tasks, and that allows us to watch the automations and the flow, watch the AI machine learning, and we can step in manually at any point in time to fix and to get it to work and to continue. It's not fully autonomous by any means yet, all right? But it's getting closer and closer into that final step where we want to go with this course, all right? So Bolt DIY is basically like having a pair of programmers who are AI experts. You're going to tell them what to build, and they're going to help you write the code, okay? Now, how does it work? How do we actually get all these files to do something? Well, you can copy it all, and then you can ask your LLM, how do I run it? Sure, why not? Or you can just scroll down into the instructions in the Markdown, and you'll see here, it's just 3 lines of code anyway to get this running, and we don't even have to type it. You can copy paste it. So all we need to do, of course, you need to have Node running on your terminal. So you would have to download and install Node if you don't have it. You just go to nodejs.org and follow the instructions. Once you have Node installed, Node basically, it's an engine, a JavaScript engine that's going to run on the terminal, so that way we can go ahead and actually execute code on our terminal, which is way better than using our GUI. It's just so much better. All right. So do I have Node.js? Yes, because if I type node-v, we're going to see that I'm running a version. That's how you can test that you have it. And actually, if you go into Node, what is Node? Well, it's JavaScript. I can say constant x, and that actually, I can then say x equals 12. But I actually messed it up. So I can say constant x equals 12. And what is x? X is 12. We get undefined as well because it's a constant variable of x. We can also say let y equal 2 plus x. What is y? Well, it's going to be 2 plus 12, 14. Okay, so it's JavaScript just to show you. Okay, so clear. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I want you to then, I already did this, but just to show you, npm, you're going to install. You have the G flag. You want a global installation. PNPM is going to be better. It's just going to be a modern version that's going to trace and fix dependencies and just run npm in a smarter way. Clear. And once we have your node working, what we're going to do first is we're going to follow these 3 things. But of course, we need the project files, because what this does is basically gets this project to work by installing all the packages with PNPM, which is a better version of NPM. Node Package Manager is a way to install packages, and then just running the project locally. We are running things locally here. We're Mavericks. That's what I want you to take away from it. It's okay if this is a little over your head. It's really, you're going to get the hang of it. So scroll to the top. See here, we can clone all this code. You're going to copy it, this endpoint. All right, that's basically the endpoint where all the code is of what this project is. And then we're going to go to the terminal, and you're going to type in git clone. Git basically, it's a small program that acts as a placeholder for Git. If this doesn't work, what you'd want to do is type in git -- version. And for me, the version is just going to pop up for the Apple Git version. But you might see a message asking you to install the command line developer tools. Just follow it and install Git. That would be the easiest way to install it on your Mac. Otherwise, you could just Google download Git and you'll get it. But the easiest way would be to put in the version. Well, after that you see you have the version, you can check if you have the version just by typing in git version. Do git clone, paste in that URL endpoint and hit enter. I already did that, so I'm not going to do it. That's going to download essentially that Bolt project, which you should then see here, bolt.diy. Then I want you to go into it by command directory. So this is just some basic shell code, all right, based off of Linux, cd bolt diy. And then from inside the directory, because all we are now is in the folder, you want to install PNPM globally first. I already did that, but you want to do that. If you do a global installation, it might ask you for your password. Then you want to PNPM install. So you want to do that, go through the installation process. And once that's done, I want you to copy PNPM run dev and hit enter. And if you successfully follow these steps, you got GitHub, you got your node set up, and you went through this. And again, if you're new to this stuff, don't be upset if something's not working. Take your time, go slow. This is the world of problem solving. Even if you have all the AI in the world, there's always going to be things where you got to set stuff up. This is how it goes. But I want you to, but for those of you who have it working, we just want to go to localhost 5173, and you should see this beautiful, beautiful local running program called Bolt DIY, where ideas begin. All right. We're going to stop there because in the next lesson, we need to set up an Open Router API so that we can use DeepSeek. We're basically going to supercharge or plug in Bolt DIY into the artificial intelligence of DeepSeek, and then it's going to go ahead and build us projects. At least get them up and running in full stack capacity, which is insane. So stop there, and in the next lesson, we'll take a look. And make sure, don't move on to the next lesson till you have this working. Go through it step by step. If you have questions, ask your questions on Udemy or on the Discord. Ask DeepSeek, ask ChatGPT. You will get there, I promise, if you have patience. Okay, I'll see you there in the next lesson. We're getting to the juicy bit. I'm very excited to show and demonstrate the power of what it means to actually have AI doing more of the heavy lifting and abstracting ourselves out of us. And that's sort of what we're doing. We're abstracting ourselves out of us, out of ourselves. It's funny, I put it that way. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just kind of came out. Okay, so you should be up and running at localhost 5173, as we can see in the terminal here. And there's a lot of different LLM managers. And basically what Bolt DIY is, it's a means for us. It's a platform that runs locally where we can actually get tech stacks that are much more complex, because so far we've built, we built programs that work, and they're not, and it's not like there's no complexity. We built a few things that had hundreds of lines of code. But if you want to build something that's scalable, that millions of people can use, that's dependable, that's reliable, then there's going to be more library introduction from the ground up. It's a very important aspect and step to building is the architectural design of applications. And this is something you get the hang of the more you do it. It's something that you just get with experience, right? Like anything else. When you start building a house, and you realize maybe after you've built a couple that, hold on a minute, before we jump into the bricks and the cement and the window, let's make these important decisions now, because once it's built, tearing it down and then building it up, it's going to be a huge, huge problem. And the same thing is with tech stacks and applications. Once you start building, the more you're going to build into what you started with, the harder it's going to be to fundamentally change things. And you want to build in a direction, ideally, that's scalable, because an application is different than a house because you can have more and more people coming in. So you want the house to be dynamically scalable, that it can build and build and build in a way in which it's not a nightmare to do so. All right, so this is all a long way. This might sound long-winded, but it's actually what I'm describing to you is the fundamental principles of moving from a junior developer to a mid-level developer. It's thinking in terms of, complexity, in terms of scalability, and modularity. Okay, so cover these concepts, but we're not the ones that need to worry about it so hands-on anymore. That's the point, guys, okay? So we're at bolt.diy. What we want to do to actually build these more complex applications together is we want to hook up this application, which is going to basically have the automations in place to deploy AI to build these levels of tech stack. So we want to then bring in AI and hook it up into Bolt DIY. And that's what you see right off the page. We see this is where ideas begin, and we see this Open Router. Now, Open Router is basically an interface for LLMs to manage their inputs, so you can choose different ones. So let's go ahead and hook up Open Router to our DeepSeek so that we can use it to build. And so in order to get the Open Router API, so we want to get an API in order to access this, and an API key, well, you just think of it like a password for applications. It's your unique code that lets you access, or lets an app rather access another app or service. So it's just an authorization mechanism that's standard practice. So to get the API, we want to go to openrouter.ai. And when you go to openrouter.ai, just so you can see, openrouter.ai, right? I'm already in my settings, but you'll see something like this. You won't even see that yet. You'll just see their homepage, which is telling you that Open Router is a unified interface for LLMs, and we see we got DeepSeek right here because it's super popular at the moment. And depending when you see the video, maybe you're going to see stuff that I didn't even know about, doesn't exist yet. You want to select sign in first, obviously, so you can make an account, or you can sign in with your Google. It'll automatically make the account for you. Go through the process. Once you're signed in, all you need to do is click on keys. It's free, and you can create an API key. So I'm going to call this learn fun stuff. Okay. You can name your key something appropriate. So the best practice would be to name your key something appropriate so that there is a type of memory allocation, or that you're pointing for your own memory. I mean, for you to remember what it was for without being too explicit. So I just said learn fun stuff because I was being funny. But for best practice, you give an API key for Open Router. You could call it Open R and then K. Okay, Open Router key, let's say. So something like that. And then you're going to get this key. Now, whenever you get an API key, the best practice is never share it with anyone. Never post it on GitHub in your code publicly. There's easy ways to add it as an environment variable on GitHub directly, or a secret variable, or to hide it. But I'm showing you this now, but I'm going to delete it after. And this key is free anyway, but just the best practice is never share your keys. Okay, so I'm going to copy this key, and then we're going to go into our Open Router API key, and I'm going to choose DeepSeek. We're going to just go with the DeepSeek R1 Distill Llama. Or you know what? The Distill is going to move faster. So just to show you, I'm going to use that one, but you could use the regular one. It's going to go slower. And you can set your key here. I already have my key, but put your key in, hit OK. And is that it? Is that all? Well, yeah. Now we can build. So I want to show you what we can do. I can actually type. I can even, I would say, being a developer for a few years, I know the mainstream front end and back end frameworks and libraries that are awesome to use and open source and regularly updated. Everyone knows about React. Maybe you never heard of React, but it has a reactive design system for DOM updating and DOM manipulation, with actually a virtual JavaScript DOM that wraps around the DOM. If you don't know what that means, I'm just talking about our browser. I'm talking about the tools that allow you to write very scalable applications that we talked about. React is one of them. Then there's styling, right? We were using CSS to style, but you could use libraries, or you could use design patterns. You can use Material UI, which is made by Google, or you can use Tailwind to do inline styling in a professionally and well-documented way. You can use TypeScript to make JavaScript less buggy and more explicit by enforcing rules for property types. Okay, so there's a lot of things that exist out there. I'm just talking about them, but what you could do is you could go to chat.deepseek, right? We could go to DeepSeek. We could be in DeepSeek here, and we could ask it, I want to make a scalable, I want to make a scalable application. What tools should I use to do that? All right, so we're saying you're not a developer, you don't know. Well, if you're going to start building, this is how you need to think, okay? And so you can work with YouTube, you can work with Google, you can work with ChatGPT or DeepSeek, and yeah, it's going to expedite the process 100-fold only if you're asking the right questions and you're focusing on the right material, right? That's why you're taking this course, so that you can then go off and do that. So these are the things you need to be thinking about, right? You want to make a scale. What tools should I use to do that? What would senior developers use? I mean, this is very general, right? Broad strokes. But of course, you could specify and this should say senior developers use, you should specify some kind of app you want to make. Like for me, I'll say I want to make, and you can copy me for now and see what the result is, or you can come up with your own idea. I want to make a web app, but focus on a web app, okay, because we're building a web application here with Bolt DIY. So I want to make a web app that is an exercise app that keeps track of my training every day. And you could say, what tools and libraries should I use? What are the popular, what should the tech stack be? All right, let's start with that. And it's gonna talk about React or Vue or Angular, Redux for statement. This is the same stuff you're gonna hear a million times if you've been in web development. All right. Redux is for state management. Pinata is like the Redux for Vue. Material UI we talked about. We talked about React. Angular again is another type of full-featured framework. Works differently than React, but also JavaScript. All right, we got backend here, Python to Django. All right. So let's focus on the front end. Quite a huge answer here. So here we go. At the bottom, actually, example tech stack for your exercise app. Here's a sample stack. All right, so we could copy this, front end, back end. So the front end is where the users are going to interact. Back ends are going to hold the database information, limiting, all of the best practices in authentication, JWT, hosting, real-time, for any type of real-time interactions. So we're going to copy the sample stack. All right, and so we're going to say build an exercise web app front end. We'll just focus on the front end. We'll use DeepSeek R1, running, front end, and get it running. And then we'll post the sample stack. And you know, you want to build this out in parts to not make mistakes. So we'll start with the front end. Okay, so we'll say the front end like this. And all right, so we got React, Tailwind, and Axios. Let's see what Bolt DIY can do. Okay, so it looks like we're building here. We got the package JSON. So the package JSON is basically the manifest script. It's gonna have all the dependencies that build the project. And look how Bolt DIY is building everything out for us. It would take days just to figure out the tech stack with a team, cost so much money. Then it's gonna take time. Then it would take time for, you know, confirming that and then starting to write it out and building. And this is all being done with 2 prompts, guys. 2 prompts, that's it. That's it. All right, so we got the index HTML. We've seen this before. The HTML page is the most important page in the sense of which it is the root. You can see here we got the root coming in. React basically, as I mentioned, it's acting as a virtual DOM that wraps around the HTML. So basically it's JavaScript that's wrapping around the HTML, which allows you to do these client-side rendering, which are super fast, right? Because if you have JavaScript that can then quickly make changes and updates when users log in and do things, as opposed to clunky document generation, moving and waiting for everything to constantly re-update and re-evaluate. JavaScript has the React DOM has a very efficient way of checking those updates and making those updates happen in a timely manner. All right, we got app.jsx happening and loading up over here. And this is React right here. Look, so we got use effect and use state. These are your hooks that you love, that everybody loves to see from React. They're starting off on some mock data over here. So we've got an API just to show you what you could do to fetch information. It's setting it up for us. And we're even getting some configurations for Tailwind for our styling. This is looking good, guys. This is looking pretty good. Wow, look at this. Run npm command install. It's actually installing. So this is AI agents at work, okay? This is what we're seeing. we're seeing AI agents at work here, and we're always going to run into errors when we start developing this one way or another, agent or not, because there's a lot, as you noticed, there's a lot of components to get a scalable application just off the ground. So go back to code. Let's see what the error was. We analyze an error, so let's ask Bolt. Failed to start application. Sure, we know that, and we can see here in our terminal, if you check the terminal, and I want you to just kind of like follow along, and then of course what you're going to have is going to be different than mine, but the point from learning from me is then just take the patterns and approaches I'm doing. Like I'm looking at the terminal, I'm checking what the error is, I'm trying to think in a scalar manner, I'm then plugging that information, and I'm acting as the operator, essentially. I'm still acting as the operator. But now we've got some AI agentic work happening. So, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and say, try to run the project and running into this error. Paste that. So this is hilarious because I didn't even read what was going on because I just copied the whole thing over, but the AI agent actually read the error and saw, oh, well, actually what's happening here is that you were having a fatal error with Tailwind, and notice the error, it's running it again now. Now we're moving on to our next error. Welcome to programming. And this actually looks like it's up on 5173. We do see this uncaught reference React is not defined. We can ask Bolt about that. And while we're doing that, I'm going to actually turn off. So I'm going to do Control X to switch this off. I'm going to make sure that everything has been installed. So I'm going to run npm install myself. Looks like everything's installed, and I'll run npm run dev to run basically, and we're not seeing anything. So if I go into the index, we're going to see that we were missing the import React from app.jsx. So now Bolt DIY is rewriting the code for our exercise app. All right, so now it's actually writing our exercise app because we weren't getting anything before. And we see here that, we're getting this exercise tracker. This api.example.com exercises is just it's just a placeholder. It's not anything. So I don't expect to see that. But what we should see is the exercise tracker. Beautiful. Okay, this is up and running, guys. Oh my goodness, look at that. So we've got, look at this. This is robust, and this is just the front end, but it's robust. We've got Tailwind for our styling, post CSS configurations, JSON set up with React, and Axios. Beautiful. We got the index. This was all done for us. And it's okay if you're not sure what this stuff is or this all looks over your head. The important thing is to take a look and get familiar with it, all right? Start to get used to the process of thinking, all right, I'm the operator. I have this incredible AI that can actually act as my engineers. You now have engineers that can build applications for you. What you need to do is focus on creating a system where you can do your best to understand what's going on wrong, and then interacting and learning how to interact with your AI to ask the right questions and then build. You'll become a better builder and you'll become a better developer. I don't care if you're brand new or you have 10-year plus experience. This is very interesting. This is extremely powerful stuff, guys. I mean, look, it's up and running. Now, it's not doing much just yet because if I take a look at the app code, I see here that we're using useEffect, which essentially is a lifecycle hook, which is loading when the page is refreshing, and it's basically sending out. Axios sends out like async await requests because that's how JavaScript works. There's this promise to then get this array, which doesn't really exist. So what I could say is this api.example in the app.jsx is made up. Can we use a real free one instead, or just have the data show up anyway and make the app look better for now without fetching data? I would prefer if you use a real Axios request API. That's free and easy, but it's up to you. Okay. All right, and we'll then paste the code underneath as an example for context. Let's hit enter. Let's see how the API, let's see how the AI responds. All right, I'm gonna click on preview. All right, so couldn't quite get it. Okay, if we change from our shell to, let's go to JavaScript, and we'll try this version instead. This is pretty straight up, and we'll switch it even to Axios because it's still failing. So let's go ahead and go back one more time. Now this can be debugged. I think that this code should be set up, since we have an API key, on the back end, and then we should be setting up an endpoint on the back end and then getting that endpoint and retrieving it in a JSON format here, and then it would run. Okay? Your homework is to go to DeepSeek, say you want to make a full stack application like this. I want to make a full stack application and focus first on the front end. Okay? So you want to focus on the front end, and I want to build X. So that's whatever you want to build. It could be a game. It could be a lose weight app. It could be a gain weight, like whatever. It could be anything you want, a dating app, a Facebook clone. Then take that stack, whatever it is you're going to get on the front end, implement it back into Bolt, and build with your AI agents. Be the manager and the operator of the agents. See how far you can go. I'd love to see your results. If you get the full front end working like me, and you can have animations and a page, then see if you can actually integrate the back end, or see if you could integrate multiple pages from there. All right? We're going to save the most complex work we do, and coming up, we're going to actually look at how we can use AI agents to build APIs to send us messages as a personal assistant. So in the next section, we're going to shift out of working with AI to build web applications to using AI as a personal assistant or a professional assistant in our personal or professional lives. So we're going to be switching gears, but you'll see that we're focusing, of course, with the same concepts of coding and fundamentals that we've seen here, with JSON, with requests, responses, all, of course, coming back down to the same fundamentals. I'm very excited for the next section. It's going to be very cool. We're basically going to we're going to build together a personal assistant that can give us weather updates to our email and send us emails. I'm going to show you how to do that, and we'll actually have a working API set up as well. Bonus, get an API working. Typical ones. One that I like is JSON placeholder. So if you go to JSON placeholder typecode.com/posts, you're going to get all these posts, and you could use this hint to make posts for an application that has posts. Okay, I won't say more than that. In fact, you know what? It's going to bug me if I don't get this working. So I'm going to say there's another free one for exercise apps that don't require the API key. I was getting a little bit too ambitious. So I'm going to say, let's use a different fetch point for our exercise without an API key. We can use wger.de/API version 2 exercise. Okay. All right. So this is another one. So I'm just going to see if I can switch this just to show you that this actually does work. Okay. All right. And we're seeing this update happening here. Final attempt. I don't want to leave you guys proving my valor, right? So let's see if this works. We're going to go back to preview. All right, take a look. We've got data, and we got a lot of data happening here. So we got handed kettlebell swing, 3D lunge warm up. I'm overloaded here with amazing exercise types. Amazing exercise app here with all sorts of wonderful types of exercises we could try. Bag training. What you want to do with this to build the exercise app will be up to you right now. It just made a database because it doesn't know what to do with this. I could say work on this app now and ask the user various questions so that it can provide helpful solutions for the type of exercises they should do. We could even add AI into it. The world is your oyster. I just didn't want to leave you hanging with a project and talking about fetching APIs and, hey, how come it's not working? How come you didn't finish it? There are always solutions out there. They just may not be evident. And it's really up to us. It doesn't matter how much AI you have, how good your Wi-Fi is, how many years of deep research you've done. Your ability to problem solve and think outside of the box is what's going to set you apart from the majority of others. All right? So don't copy as I do. Just learn from the patterns, infer, and the little bit of reinforcement learning, right? I mean, that's what we're doing here. Okay, so good luck on your application. I'd love to see what you do. Please feel free to share with me. And whenever you're ready and that's done, I can't wait to see you in the next section where we can build a personal assistant. I'll see you there, guys. Bye-bye. We've been on an incredible journey together so far, and I don't know where you're coming from. It doesn't matter what your background is. We started with a single prompt on DeepSeek, right? Asking DeepSeek and testing basically by playing with NLP, right? By playing with the prompting and the spelling of the words, and even just something very simple like the spelling or misspelling of words, shone a light on what's really going on under the hood when it comes to NLP and it comes to interpretation and context. We then moved on to build a simple game. We then moved on to get our AI to just write some code for a game, just some basic code for a game. And we leveraged the feature to build it in HTML on our UI for the LLM with DeepSeek. And it did, and it ran the game for us, and that was amazing. And from there, we've gone so far to actually get our own AI agents to work and build full stack application processes. So congratulations for making it this far. This has been a pretty epic ride, and hopefully you see the power in each step we've taken. Again, hopefully, and what this should be doing is providing a blueprint for you to then take for yourself and then decide, okay, I see the steps. I see how Clarion is working here, how he's acting as an operator with AI. He's monitoring, he's checking for errors, he's checking how the history works and putting roadblocks and checkpoints to create a dialogue in order to build and pay attention to the processes of building. We're shifting away from directly building and programming ourselves. We're creating more abstractive layers on top. And what that does is it actually creates new types of skills and strategies that we need to master if we want to get the best out of this technology and see real results. And that's where I want to shift gears now. We've been focusing on programming and building applications. I want to show you the power of end-to-end workflow automations and how when you couple that with AI, what you actually get is something altogether new, not just basically a team of coding engineers to build you projects. Instead, what we see now are workforce employees, personal assistants, basically having AI agents work for you to perform everyday tasks, which can range from anything from email and communication to customer service to setting up appointments. This is all, those examples are all very preliminary. And those examples are relatively easier to understand and more general. They represent, if you can imagine, millions of jobs in every type of industry. But it gets much more larger in scope than that. So let's stop right here. I want you to go to make.com, all right? And I just want you to scroll around, take a look. You don't have to click on anything. Get prepared, because in this section, we are going to explore together the power of AI agents and their seemingly unlimited potential. Okay, so I want you to go to make.com, okay? And we're gonna see automations that you can see, flex and scale. This is basically a platform or a SaaS in which you can create automations and build powerful engines that are scalable for businesses, for your personal projects. But now, these very, very powerful platforms that are used by millions of companies all over the world are integrating AI. So you can supercharge automative workflows with now LLMs to oversee and make decision processes. And what is that? Well, then that becomes basically a business solution. Can you build a business out of AI agents? Technically, now you can. It's not as simple as 1, 2, 3, make a business and we're done. But we're going to look at it together today. And I want you to explore and understand these fundamentals. We're going to basically build an AI agent that takes the weather from any city you want and can send you emails giving you updates about the weather. All right, we're going to start there. But as we do that, I'm going to show you other tools, and we're going to talk about what else you could do with this, because it can get, as you're going to see, it can get much crazier than just that. But I think that's a very good starting point, since this is a high view level course where we take a look at all the different elements and give you those fundamentals. I think that's going to be a really good way to travel light through what this can do, but give you a full rounded idea. And then it's up to you what you can do with that after. I can't wait. So I want you to just click on Get Started for free or make an account, and you can sign up with your Google or make an email. I already have an account, so I'm just going to click on Google. It should sign me in. And we're going to get to this dashboard. Let's stop right here. A nice short and sweet win. Let's take the wins as we get them. And in the next video, let's get working. If you want, you can take a look around. You know, it's just another platform for building. In this platform, we're not building code, right? This is for automation. So you can see, you can work with your team, you can build a team, you can add webhooks that can trigger data. That comes with templates to do all sorts of incredible things. We'll take a look at the templates and talk about them. But yeah, you know, feel free to just go and explore it a bit. Take this as a win, and we'll get started in the next lesson. Okay, welcome back. So, make.com. So this is, as I mentioned, a powerful automation platform. And what really makes these types of platforms stand out and why so many businesses use them, as opposed to just, well, why don't we just, write our own APIs and our own webhooks and hook it all up ourselves? It's because these platforms really allow you to connect apps and services and integrate them seamlessly without needing to write code. Yes, you heard it. No code. All right. Woo. You can, jump up and down. On top of that, it also acts like a visual programming tool. So basically, you can create these, what they call scenarios, as you see up here. And they're like automation scenarios where you can move data between different applications and then perform those tasks autonomously. All right. You can do all sorts of things. If you click on templates, for example, before we start building ours, I want to show you. Notice how we can do all sorts of things. We can hook up Google Sheets, there's Slack, there's Gmail, Twitter, Airtable, Shopify. These are templates to get you off the ground running. Just to show you, ChatGPT, generate random strings, blah, 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 blah. But the templates are not restrictive, right? Like these are just little boosters to get you started. You can start in your own way, which is what we're going to basically do for ourselves. And so what I want you to do is actually go back to your organization and click on create a new scenario. So we're going to do that. Beautiful. Now, once we're in our new scenario over here, what do we see? Well, we see the visual aspects of building workflow automations. All right. So we see this plus sign here in the circle. This is basically our starting point. It's our trigger, in effect, where if there's an action or we want something to happen, then we can create something out of that. Okay? So for us, well, I think what would be interesting for us to look at would be maybe like a weather API. So let me check. So if we search for weather, notice how we can see weather up top here. We can click on that, and right off the bat, if we were programming and we wanted to get information from the weather, we would have to, as you noticed, do that Bolt DIY, create a tech stack, and then launch it and run it locally, and then make sure make sure everything's installed properly, the dependencies are working, bring in a library like Axios or do some fetch async requests to an API that exists. Maybe you have to get a key, fetch it back, check the error in handling, do try and catch. You know the drill, right? We've gone through that. Here, all of that's done for us under the hood in one click. All we have to do is type in weather and then click get current weather. Boom, done. I want to enter a location by cities, so we can type in a city. If you look at the side here, you're going to see that you have functions like get, if, check, operators. This is coding for us done easy. So we could technically drag values in to make our code more robust. Like if this city exists, otherwise, if it doesn't exist, do this. We're not going to get so advanced on that. I just wanted to show you that because it popped up. But just to even get started, you don't even have to do that. You could just type in your favorite city. So I'm just going to type a city where I am right now. I'm currently in Miami. Okay, so I'm going to type in Miami. And I'm going to save. And just like that, we should be getting the data from Miami. Is it really that easy? Is it really that simple? Well, we can test this. If I click on run once at the bottom here, well, we get this piece of data. This data has the input, which is the bundle, the city, Miami. And we're getting that by name of the location, as we can see. And then we have an output. With everything in computer science, functionality-wise, is based off inputs and outputs and values of true and false. And we can see right here from the output, we get the coordinates, we get the current temperature in, this is Celsius, in case you're freaking out, atmospheric pressure, air humidity, cloudiness, broken clouds, and you have an icon here. This is coming from the Open Weather Map API. And we have a positive output. So this really, really works. And you should be seeing an output from your city as well. So this is how you instantiate and get started with automations. It starts with a trigger, an event. In this case, we want to take the weather, and what we're going to do with this weather is going to be interesting. We're then going to get an interpretive response from an AI agent that's going to understand what the weather is and then send us an email in a way that we prefer to receive that information and be notified what the weather is that way. So very cool stuff. Let's stop here, and in the next lesson, let's set up our AI agent to interpret this weather. See you there. Okay, so now we have our weather trigger API working with not a single line of code written. I can run this, I'll get an update, I can change the city. Let's see what's happening in Paris right now. And we can run it in Paris. And we see that in Paris, oof, it's chilly. It is chilly. This is definitely Celsius, you guys. Okay, so that's great and all. We're getting that. And yeah, it's low code. It's wonderful. What does this have to do with AI? Well, let's plug it in and make it happen. All right, adding another module. So that leads us to the moment of truth. Now, if we want to use DeepSeek, then we can't just go directly into DeepSeek. That integration isn't available just yet, since it's Chinese and it's brand new at the making of this video. Maybe when you're taking it, you can. But we can use our best friend, OpenRouter. And we see OpenRouter right here. And from here, we can do something similar to what we did with Bolt DIY. We use the API from OpenRouter, connect it as a routing device, basically like an interface that hooks up into DeepSeek. It's kind of like a middleman. And then from there, we have full access to write our calls we could do it freely or super cheaply to get even better results. So I'm going to do create a chat completion, hook it up. You want to basically, I have already a connection over here, but you want to make sure that you have your API key up and running. All right, so actually I need to put the API key back, so why don't we go ahead and do that. So we want to go back to openrouter.ai. You want to go into your keys, and you want to make a new key, or you kept the key that you had saved somewhere. I'm just making these keys just for education purposes, and then I'm destroying them. So I'm going to call this automation key. It's good to name them, then you can keep track of what's happening in terms of the calls and the activities that are going on. This is going to be the automation key over here, and I'm going to then paste it in and save. And then it's going to run a test automatically for us to verify if the key works. If it does, you shouldn't get any type of error. And it looks like it's working. So once we have that key up in place, we want to select the model. So we're going to go with DeepSeek. Oops. Let's try that again. DeepSeek. We can grab DeepSeek, any of these. I can do, let's go ahead with DeepSeek R1. We have our enable fallback. And this is very good. This should actually hook us up to DeepSeek. So the final thing, the final frontier that we want to do now is actually set up some prompt engineering so that our DeepSeek, now that it's connected and it's going to receive that weather data that we saw, well, what does it do with that? How does it interpret it? So we want to add an item to the message, okay? And we see we've got content and role. We want it to be the role of the user. And when you click on content, notice how we get all of that data from weather available for us. So we've got this information. And this is actually outputting the data. This is basically JSON data with key value pairs. It just means this is the JavaScript data from the Weather API gets converted on this platform in a nice way for us to see it, where we can say, oh, look, we got the sunrise, the sunset, and we can take this code and basically dynamically bring it into DeepSeek without having to type any code. So description, I can just click on it and drag it in, because we want to get the description so that then DeepSeek could use that to do what? Well, then output. Output basically the information for us and send us an email about it in a fun way to read, or an interesting way to read. So we want the description. We're going to want the temperature. We're going to want, let's say, all the wind data. And that's pretty good for now. So we can close that. And now we can actually, oops, let me close that. Now we can actually go into this text. Oh my goodness. We can go into this text, and what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to try to zoom in, and we can use this information as part of our prompt engineering as basically the dynamic inputted values that DeepSeek can then take and transform into an output that we want to see. So we can say, you are a funny but practical and concise weatherman. Given the following description of the weather, and here we go. So I'm going to say of the weather, put colon, comma, the temperature, and the wind. And you don't have to copy this exactly, but just so you see how this works, the process. So given the following description, create an email format, an email formatted response that looks nice as an update to send to your boss, notifying them what the weather is. And you can even say the name of your boss, and you can put your name. Your boss is, for me, Clarion. Okay? So I'm going to do that. Beautiful. And I'm going to save. All right, so let's save, and let's run this and see if our Open Router is properly connected to DeepSeek and if our prompting is going to work. So I'm going to run this, and we're doing a test here in real time. So we've got the weather. So we're getting the current weather. And now we can see Open Router is processing it. And if you're doing Open Router R1 and not the distilled version, it's going to move pretty slow compared to a faster version. But the output is going to be better. So it's really like pros and cons to what you want. We don't really need to use R1 for this. This is kind of overkill, but I'm going to just keep it on this just to show you. Okay, so this took a little bit longer than I wanted to, but it looks like it's done. Okay, so we see here, if it looks like it's done, we see that it was completed. If I double click on it, so that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and add the next module to see this outputted data here. So what I'm gonna do is add another module, and we can just use email. I would say it's better to use email than Gmail, because to use Gmail here, you would have to hook up the auth. It's not that bad. You just have to go into the Google API Cloud. But this is going to be like a fast way to just send it over to us. So what we want to do is basically send an email. And what we want to do is basically get our AI assistant to let us know, hey, what the weather's like. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to say the subject over here and the subject here. And what I want to show you at this point is when we click on subject, notice that we not only have the weather now, if we look at the top, we've got the Open Router data as well. And if we check in choices, and we check in messages, and we look in content, we see subject, your cloud-free breezy. That is a response. So I could take this, and actually this would go into the content. And if we want to keep it simple for now, we could spit this data out like JSON and then put the subject to the subject, the content in the content. But just to show you, in the subject we could just say, well, this could just be weather update from personal assistant. And we don't need to save the message after sending. You might have to actually make sure that this is hooked up at the top of the connection. You want to add the connection type. I'm going to use Microsoft SMTP. So you should have, if you don't have a Microsoft account, you can just make one for free. If you have Windows or you've used Skype or whatever in the past, then you're going to have this already. If not, just go to Microsoft, make an account, then come back, and it should be very easy to hook this up. You just have to click next. Let's try that again. We're going to try that again. I'm going to go for the Microsoft. We're going to save. It should authorize. It's authorizing. And it looks like it's signed. It looks like it's authorized. Oh, field must not be empty. Okay, I can't save. The last thing we need to add, of course, is where are we sending this email? Let's send the email over to our email. So you want to put in your email where you want to receive, basically where you want the personal assistant to be sending you the email. So we'll do that. We'll run save. Let's go ahead and run this now and see if it works. So I'm going to run it. So we got the weather API sending out the data to Open Router. Okay, so we see that we got the check from weather. We've got the Open Router that went through in the email. Did we actually get an email? Let's take a look. I'm going to go to my mail. I want you to go to your mail. And boom, weather update from personal assistant. All right. Now, because it's coming from an automated service, we're getting this careful with this message. It's something we could bypass. I'm going to say it looks safe. Let's take a look. Subject, guy's got its glasses on. Clearer than my inbox on a Monday. Okay, so it's doing the jokes. Temperature 6.8. Perfect for I'm a professional, but also a human. Beautiful. We got the wind over here. It's either auditioning for a thriller soundtracks or just really eager to sweep leaves. Okay, wonderful. So this is working, guys. It should be working for you too. This is the power of AI automation personal assistants. Now, if this is working for you, congratulations. Hopefully you're beginning to see, wow, this is how easy it is to start building assistants. Sky's the limit from here, guys. Of course, this is pretty simple, and this could also look a lot better. We could go in here, and instead of creating an email format, we could create this in JSON format so that we get the subject separated from the content. And that way the subject could be dynamic, it could look a lot better, because right now we just have a hard-coded subject that'll always say weather update from personal assistant, and then weather scoop, blah, blah, blah. You can use AI to figure out how to separate it and go ahead. That could be your bonus exercise. See if you can get this more customized, make it looking better. You can make the email look better. We got a little emoji here that looks not bad. You can have the formatting better. It's just the starting point, guys. And we started with this weather trigger, right? Just to show you as an example. But again, if we go to templates, let me save the changes. Very important to always save your changes when you're using a browser, because if you leave the browser, you'll lose your changes. So make sure you save your changes. But we go back to templates. Look how many other templates there are. They all start with different things. You start with Gmail. You can start with your Facebook. You can start with Slack. You can start with Google Sheets. Blah, blah, blah. Sky's the limit, guys. You got Telegram, WhatsApp. It's a crazy, crazy time to be alive. There's no doubt about it. But hopefully this is very eye-opening. It's bird's eye view, but I think I've covered basically the workflow and shown you the tools, and now it's really up to you. So that's it. That's it on our section for having a personal assistant. I want to go back to the primary focus of this course, which is really having a team of engineers to build us, having a team of AI agents to build us applications and build us tools. And so in the next lesson, I want to introduce you to Visual Studio Code, which is the most famous text editor choice in the world for building local projects. For building projects locally, I should say, not building local projects, but building projects locally. And then I want to show you how to use a Copilot, basically, how to put AI into directly so you don't have to program anymore. The AI is going to start programming for you. So I'm going to show you that in the next lesson. See you there. Bye-bye. In this section, we are going to work with a text editor. So if you already have experience with Visual Studio Code, you can skip this video. This is just to install it and to set it up. VS Code, it's basically just a popular, free, open source code editor developed by Microsoft. All right, so you can write code, debug, and run code. It's how you would build professional projects on a team. You would have a text editor that you would use. There are many different ones. Python, PyCharm is amazing. Visual Studio Code is great. It has a great network of extensions for you to use with it. There are others, of course. There are others. But we're going to use this one. It's free to get, so go ahead and download it. I want you to just open it up. So we're just going to open it up. Here we go. So this is Visual Studio Code. And basically, just to get an idea, you can create a... Let me bring this down so you can see better. If you click on File, you can create a new file. We can enter the name of the file. We could just say test.js for JavaScript. Okay, and let's say we put this in the desktop. Just to show you that this works, if you want to do a little practice, a little JavaScript, you can now type JavaScript code. So I could create a variable here. I'm going to make it constant. Because what we're going to do is actually use arrow functions and make it a function. So we're going to create this function isEven, which is going to take an input. Let me make this bigger so you can. All right, so constant isEven. So we're going to check an input of n. So any number of, if that number modulo 2 is equal to 0. So this is just some basic algebra math just to refresh for those of you who are like, huh, what the heck is going on here? This is arrow function format of a function. We're basically checking a number, so we're naming the function as even of n, and then we're checking that if the number was even, like think of any number. If it's even and you divide it by 2, then the remainder should be 0, right? Like there shouldn't be any decimal. Like if I do 6 divided by 2, we're going to get 3, right? So it'll always be an even number. If we put an odd number, we're going to get 3.5. You know, there's going to be a decimal, you know? So this is just like a good common trick to test. And I'm just going to show you something. So then we're going to make another variable, constant greet. You can code along if you want to test this. You don't have to. So we're going to basically greet people with an input of their name. And by the way, sorry, the triple equals is checking the equivalency. So it's equal to, so we'll say string. Just a little JavaScript to get your brain. It's like we're doing a little exercise, okay? It's good for your brain. And name.trim, okay. We'll say we're going to use string temporal over here to input JavaScript in a text format. So I'm going to say, and it's okay if this looks confusing. Don't worry, I'm going to explain it. This is just some code, you know, like AI can write it, but it's good to practice. So it's good to practice, or it's good to just see it if you haven't seen this kind of stuff. So I want to make a bit more room. So this is basically a ternary operator here, and we'll say hello stranger. So basically we're taking a name, so any input a name that has the type of name that's going to be a string, so the value has to be of a string, and then we trim that just down to the string format, and we pass in the name, and if there is no name, then we're just going to say hello stranger because we didn't get the name. All right, that's all we're saying here. And we'll do a little bit more fun math just to get your brain working. So wacky math x, y. Say type of x equals to number and type of y equals to number. Then we're going to do x times y plus x minus y plus is even x 10 or minus 5. Same numbers only. Okay, this might look pretty complex. It's really not. I'll put this on a second line just so you can read it. But basically we're creating variables, and they are variables that we're assigning arrow functions. These are arrow functions that we're assigning to the variables. And so wacky math, so is even is checking to see if something's even or odd. Greet is basically greeting somebody by their name. All right, that's all it's doing. Wacky math, you can see a little bit more confusing looking, but basically we're taking two inputs, x and y, and we want x to be a number and y to be a number. And instead of writing if else, we're using ternary operators here again. So that's what the question, and then colon is basically otherwise. Okay, so we're checking to make sure that both x and y are numbers, and if they're not, then we're going to say, hey, we only want numbers. Now, if they are and it's even, we're just going to perform this random mathematical equation, x times y plus x minus y. Okay? I'm going to log out. You can log stuff out in JavaScript with console.log, just is even, just to show you. So is even. So is 4 even and is 7 even? And we know that 7 is not even, and we know that 4 is even. Okay, so this should log, if we run this script, if we run this code, we should get a log of this. So I want you to open up the terminal here and go into the desktop or wherever you save the file test.js, and I want you to run node test.js, okay? And now we should see the results here. So is 4 even? Yes, we're getting a true. Is 7 even? False. Okay, no. So that makes sense, right? And if we want to greet, we can console.log somebody's name. So we can say greet Clarion. And then we could also greet something that has no name. And then we can also greet, oops, I got to actually run the functions. I don't know what I'm doing. Greet Clarion, and we can greet. This is how we call basically the we're not calling the functions, we're calling the variables, which are then executing the functions that are associated with the variables. So in a way, we're calling the functions, but I'm just, showing the difference. We can greet nobody, and we can also greet a number and see what happens. 1, 2, 3. So let's save this. Hello, Clarion. So hello, Clarion is the only greeting because we put in that it has to be a string, okay? For the wacky math, which is a bit more complicated, let's try a wacky math one here. This is just some wacky math, all right? I'm going to put in 2 numbers. So we'll do wacky math. We'll put in 2 and 3. We can log this. And we see we get 0. And does this make sense? Well, I'll leave it to you more advanced programmers to try and make sense of the last one. I don't want to get too carried away. But basically, the key here is that now we can actually write code on our text editor locally, and we can then execute that code, and we can build projects. But we're not here to build ourselves. We're going to activate AI agents into our text editor so that in the next lesson, we can just speak English to the AI agents, and they can build the code for us. I'll see you there. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome back. So if this code looks scary, you're not a programmer, well, I encourage you to start practicing some JavaScript. Even if you could get AI to write this code for you, it's only going to help you. I made this third one extra complicated looking for those of you who aren't programmers, just so you can be like, oh no, what's happening? There's all this weird stuff. It's really not bad if you were to spend even a month, just like 30 minutes a day reading about JavaScript, because this is all pretty rudimentary. Because once you start to see what's happening in the code and you say, well, okay, we've got a ternary operator here. We're putting in our types to be safe, and we're just setting up a function, then we're executing it and logging. That's really all that's going on with a little bit of arithmetic. That's it. In any case, the main takeaway is that you should have Visual Studio installed, and you practiced your JavaScript muscles a little bit. It's time to move forward and bring in some AI agents into our text editor. So how do we install AI agents? Well, I want to use Cline install. So if you take a look at the sidebar over here, we have these different options that are set up as icons, right? Like we can explore what's going on in our file structure, we can search, we can check the source control, we can debug stuff, and right under debugging is extensions. Now extensions are basically, as the name implies, they're modules that you can then integrate directly into your text editor to make it even better, so that it could be smart, it can have IntelliSense, it can pick up languages, it can do debugging, it can even now have AI incorporation. So what I want you to look for is something called Cline, and just type in Cline, and you're going to see autonomous coding agent right in your IDE. And look at that, it's had 500,000 downloads already. It's pretty insane. So I want you to go ahead and install it. I already have it installed. Follow all the prompts, pause the video, and I'll see you once it's installed. Okay, so you should have Visual Studio installed. You should have done a little JavaScript practice, and now have Cline installed. All right, now Cline can take in, it's the same thing we've been doing over and over again. These are basically integration tools to add AI on top of what the standards are for automation and programming. So very powerful with the IDE. Now what you could do is you see these 3 dots. You should see these 3 dots underneath. If I go back to extension or whatever, and I'll say continue, and you should see Cline. And we want to go into Cline here in our taskbar on the side. The first thing you want to do is set up your API. So you click on the settings. So we're going to use Open Router. You want to put in your Open Router key and choose the DeepSeek model. Okay? And you could add custom instructions, but we're not going to do that for now. Just hit OK and set it up. So pause the video. I'm not going to go through all the steps of doing that because we've gone through that already several times. So I feel like you should be able to do that. And I hope you can. Okay, so did you figure that out? Okay, so if you figured that out, awesome. If not, just take your time, go back, and I'm sure you're going to get it. Now that you have it set up, we should be able to write programs. So I'm going to close this extension. I'm going to close this test, and we can save. And let's try it. We're going to say write, and you can see right down here, write a JavaScript test file with some JavaScript in it and execute it with logs to see that our text editor is working properly. And hit enter. All right, so we're sending out the API request. It's reasoning. Let's see what happens. Let me create a test. Wow, are you seeing do you see what's going on here? Now we have our very first AI agent. This is our engineer that we're talking to. We asked it to write a JavaScript test. It created a new file, test.js. And we can see the code in here. If you take a look, it wrote 40 lines of code. Now, of course, what it wrote for you would be different, but it should have been writing you something. And you can see we got test basic functionality for the log, info level messaging. This is a much more concise and practical type of test than what we were doing. Of course, we were doing something more educational. But let's save. It's asking me to save. And let's see if it's going to now execute in the terminal below for us. I think it tried to run script.js, but it's actually test.js. So this isn't perfect, but we see our test.js here. So I'm going to cancel. And if I go here and I run for ourselves, node test.js. So these are all the logs. You notice how we wrote a couple logs when we did it together? Now we have a ton of logs. So we've got the first log, JavaScript test environment working. We see that document object not available. It's checking to see if there's a document object. It's telling us the log is working, warning level messages, error level messages. Beautiful. We can even notify our engineer that made a small mistake, and we can say the script file name I wanted you to execute, and the one you created was, and I think this is also because I have the distilled version because I want it to go faster for you guys. So it's going to make a couple errors here and there, but if you're on top of it and you're handling it, wow, this is powerful stuff, and it's doing the work for you. You just need to pay attention to what's going on, what's wrong, and then fix those things. So the one that they created was test.js, and that's what I want you to execute. So let's send this, see if it'll execute it on its own now. And it's always going to ask for permission before it runs command line. So we're going to click OK. And boom, it ran it again. I don't know if you saw that, but it ran it. You see how we have it twice now. So this is working. Amazing. Okay, and now it's even going through the code and double checking. Guys, you should have this running for yourself. It's not going to be the same thing. You might run into a different type of error. You might have no errors and it might be working perfectly. I want you to look at the pattern. I want you to see how this works, and then it's up to you to practice. This is the idea. Now, this is just a test file. Let's see if we can build an impressive game with our AI engineer assistants now, building it for us. And we're just making sure, checking the bugs, checking to see it's running smoothly in the way that we want. Like we've been doing up to this point. Let's take a look together in the next lesson. I'll see you there. Okay, guys, welcome back. So you should have your client working, hooked up with DeepSeek, and ready to put the pedal to the metal. So in this lesson, I want to see if we can get our AI agents to build us a game. All right. So I want you to follow along. You don't have to do the same game as me, or you could try to follow along with the code, see how far you get, and then try to build your own game after. I'm going to try Space Invaders. So I want you to make me a Space Invaders game with HTML, JS, and CSS. I want it to be stylish, and you can shoot bad guys with the space bar. All right, so let's try this. I'm going to try this out, and we can work on it together. We'll work on it with our engineers. You know, picture yourself. You're in the boardroom. You're with your top companies, your top companies, senior developers. Like, guys, we got to build this Space Invaders game. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. So I'm going to sit. Happens. So I'm going to hit enter. And here we go. So we're starting with the HTML file. It's looking good. We're building with the game over. If I scroll up, the reasoning is that DeepSeek's going to help us build the Space Invaders game. First, it's going to create this HTML file, which it's doing. Then it's going to add the style, and then finally the JavaScript. It's nothing new, but now we have in our own local IDE with our control, we're able to build. This is very powerful. It's not nothing new that we've seen, but okay. And notice with the separation of concerns, it didn't. I can see right now it's not separating out the code, but that's okay. That's okay. We could always get it to do that after. I want to see what it builds first and foremost. All right, so here are the files. It looks like it built everything from the HTML file, but it's got the style in JavaScript, as we can see, right? We've got shooting bullets, creating enemies. So let's save that information. We're going to save the file. Let's see if it can run it for us and if it works on one shot. That would be insane. Okay, so it wants to open up the file and run it. So we're going to say yes. We're going to open. Okay, it looks like there's an error here because we can see the code happening. We can see the code of the style css.body, and we shouldn't be seeing this, and nothing is running. So for me, it didn't quite get there. I can actually take a look and find out what the error is. I mean, this is really what your job is now, is overseeing the AI agents. It shifted away, so we could see styles.css. The functions are also missing the style. So I can tell, so if you take a look, this should be CSS code, but it's not registering it as such. And the JavaScript is not even in scripts, and it even added by accident a question at the end which shouldn't be in there. So there's a lot of good code in here, but it's not working. So we can say the style and the JavaScript in the HTML file is not set up properly in their tags, and you have a text question at the end breaking the code. Please fix. Okay, so it's having trouble separating. I'm going to try to see if I can. I'm going to switch from the distilled version to the fuller version to see if this will get it to work better. And I'm going to go back up to my task, my original task. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to reset this task here. So I'm going to go back into the desktop. I'm going to clear this out. And okay. So I want you to make me a Space Invaders game with HTML, JS, and CSS, stylish, and you can shoot bad guys with the spacebar. Let's try that out. Okay, so it wants to make the changes to style. Great, so this is actually creating these separate files. I think GPT Mini would do it as well. You have to pay a little bit for the API on that one. It would go faster and probably do a better job with separation. But But let's see with DeepSeek here, because it's costing nothing per request. And let's see if it can make the JavaScript file, because it did a great job. It looks like it did a great job here. We see the score. We have explosions, lasers, and okay, now we're getting the JavaScript. Here we go, guys. This is looking really great. Wow, look at it go. Lasers, pieces. This is going to be beautiful. I can't wait to go through this with you guys, but it's looking like it's coming together. Now, I don't know if it's going to work right off the bat, but this is going to be easier for me to debug for sure, if whatever the case may be. Okay, so let's save the JavaScript changes. And this is looking very good. So we see that we created a class. So it's basically a blueprint of an object that sets up this constructor. So the constructor basically is what gets initialized, and we can see that we have elements for the player, the speed, the lasers. When the lasers shoot over here, we got to execute to shoot and for the player to move. And then we also have the constructor for the enemy and how the enemy moves and gets hit. We've got the game, spawning enemies, updating lasers. This all looks really good in theory. We see the style over here. We've got styles, and we've got the actual index, which is where it all comes together and is being tied together. We see we got the script being passed in and the style sheet over here, styles and the script. So this should then be able to launch it on the browser. Now, will this actually work? Question, question, question. That's the real moment of truth. Let's find out. Okay, so we're at the point where we can open the index. So I'm going to run the command. Wow, look at this. So we see we got these space invaders. They're slowly coming. We got a score. I can move back and forth. Can I shoot? Oh my goodness. Look at that, guys. Guys, I didn't even have to fix anything. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I didn't make this game, okay? I have AI agent engineers who made this game for me. I just asked them to make it. I can't believe this. I can't believe how good that looks. And look, this is just a starting point. Of course, we can make this better. Let me reset it again, see if it's working. Wonderful. Wow. This is looking great. Wow. They're coming down. Can I get them all? Oh my goodness. You know, we could center the guns. We could have these space invaders fall better. We can make them look better. This is really a wonderful starting point, guys. But, okay, hopefully you see the process, right? Like, we're playing with a lot of different things. We're playing with the type of AI agents. So it's basically what type of employee do we have and how do they work? And then we're paying attention to what they're building, and we're saying, well, wait a minute, this is working, this isn't working. We're trying to understand what they're doing. And then really there is a new set of skills emerging here. There's still the fundamentals of programming, which will just make you much better at surveying and controlling the land. But there is this new skill set of basically interpersonal delegation. It's no longer managers that need to be good at delegating in order to problem solve. The problem solvers, if you as a problem solver can get good at understanding how to get to the crux of a problem and then see how your tools are working that are intelligent tools that you can communicate with NLP. This is what this course is supposed to teach you. If these light bulbs are going off and you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Okay, I see where the potential is here. Oh, wow, I see some serious opportunities here. Then I feel like I'm doing a good job as an instructor. If I am, I'd love to hear about that. Regardless, please leave a review. Curious to see what you think of this content. But for me, this is super exciting and powerful stuff and fun to show right now. Right now in 2025, I really think this is the future. So I love looking at this and talking about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Your homework is to get whatever you've been working on alongside me to work, all right? And then show me. I want to see what it is. Put a copy of it. Put it in the questions. Put it in the Discord. Send me a message. I'm curious what you're building, guys. This is super great. But congratulations for making it to this point. Please, before you move on to the next section, get something working. Try to get it as good as you can, and then share it with people and show people what you've managed to build with a team of AI intelligent engineers basically working for you. I want to stop here because in the next section, our final section, I want to bring everything together that we've learned about DevOps and scripting, programming fundamentals, personal assistance, and I want to show you what happens if we actually remove ourselves fully as the operator and we replace us with another AI. So the final section, and by the way, you're going to need to have Python installed. So it's a little bit more complex. So it's a little bit more complex to get the Python set up. You don't have to go through the whole thing. I encourage you, if you can't install Python properly and get it to work, then at least to watch the videos, because I'm going to remove us from the equation and it's going to be about the AI talking to the AI. And that's all it's going to be about. And we're going to get the AI then in this situation when we're no longer there. We can then get our AI to do things on our computer. We can leverage tools like Playwright to basically browse the internet for us, do our research, do our homework. Okay. I didn't say that out loud, but I want to show you something very cool for this last section. Save the best for last. I'll see you there whenever you're ready. What if we could use AI agents to browse the internet for us? Hold on, I'm not talking about ChatGPT, texting it, ask it to search something online, well, which it can't even do, but DeepSeek can. DeepSeek does have the search online. Gemini is more updated in time. But I'm not talking about that. I'm saying we sit back, relax, drink some delicious coffee. That's good coffee. While our AI agent actually goes and does research on our browser or looks things up, finds interesting information, applies to jobs for us, whatever it is. Wouldn't that be useful? Oh, that's not possible. Of course it is. And that's what we're going to look at in this section. So this section is going to be the most advanced section because we're completely removing ourselves and we're using multiple AI cross operation. So we're going to be leveraging OpenAI's ChatGPT, super powering it as an operator with DeepSeek to see if we can get DeepSeek to browse the internet for us. Now, in order to complete this, you're going to need to have Python 3. And if you have no programming experience whatsoever, getting Python set up on your computer, it's a bit of a hassle. You need maybe Homebrew with Mac. That's how I do it. Use Brew. You can use, if you're feeling ambitious and you really want to go through it and see if you can get this yourself, I encourage you to pause the video and use ChatGPT or DeepSeek to ask it how to install Python. Go through it. You're going to want to do that up in your terminal, see that it's working. Let me CD out of that. Let me clear this. Once Python is installed, if you check, you should be able to see, you'll see that, let me do that again, Python pip or Python 3. We'll see that we have the version Python 3 here installed and the commands that come with it. So if you're into that, go ahead. It's totally fine if you just want to check out the videos first and then give it a chance afterwards, or just watch them. It's totally up to you. It's not technically heavy what we're doing, but conceptually, if you're new to working with the terminal and GitHub and setting up APIs and whatnot, it could be a bit of a hurdle. I get it. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, I want you to go to github.com/browser-use/web-UI. So that's github.com browser-use/web-UI. Okay, so that's where you want to go. It's basically the project that we're going to leverage in order to run AI agents from our browser. So once you're there, we're going to do what we did earlier. If this is unfamiliar to you, go back. We've worked off of other repos. If you remember Bolt DIY, we did something similar. We're going to copy the endpoint, which is where this repo is containing the data files, and then we are going to clone. So we're going to go into our desktop and we're going to run git clone and pass that command in. I already have it, so I'm not going to do it again, but you should hit enter. You should download it, and then you should see, where's it called? Here, web UI at the bottom. So then you want to go into the directory, so I'm cding into web UI. Oops, a little dyslexia there. And I forgot to, let's do that. Okay, let's clear this out. And you should see that we got this Docker file, the requirements. This is a Python-based project, so the requirements is like the manifest for, it's equivalent to like the package JSON. We see we got the source code. This stuff should be looking more familiar compared to what we've done in this course so far, except that we're using Python. Because we're using Python, we need to create an environment that activates Python so that we can install all of the dependencies necessary. So I'm assuming now that you have Python installed, you're going to want to be able to set up and activate your Python. So in order to do that, you would want to type in Python 3. This is to create an environment. So I would do a venv.vm. And if this looks a little weird, you get very, very used to doing this. It's just what you need to do to activate a source session of Python. So the second command to activate it would be source.venv. And this should be set up in the bin. And we want activate to activate. So we should have activate, hit enter, and now you should have an active instance set up. Now that you have Python running, you want to basically follow the directions here to install. We already have Python up and running and we have it activated. So what you'd want to do is install UV. So UV is just basically a faster alternative to pip. Pip is like the standard package installer for Python, and UV is going to be this faster manager that we can use. And once you have that installed, then you can install the requirements with UV pip install R, so we get all the requirements .text. And R is basically just to read the requirements coming from the file. Requirements.txt, which you can open up. I want you to actually open up in your text editor in VS Code, because we're doing this now in VS Code. So you can go to the file, so you can open the folder of the GitHub code, and you can see here under requirements, all right, this is what we're using here. That's that folder. It's going to download everything. And then we see we've got source code. We have everything we need to run this project. So you want to run that. Then we want to install Playwright. I've already done all this. I'm not going to do that again. Once you've successfully installed Playwright and you've done all this and everything should be working, if not, you got to go through it one at a time. You know, this is DevOps. You can run into some errors while installing. You need to use DeepSeek to debug. Go ahead and do that. But once you get there, you can run the project locally. We don't have to use Docker. We don't have to create an image. We can just run the project locally with this command. So the local setup here, webui.py, it's going to set it up. Okay, so there's no module name .ev. Okay, so that, I think we need to change. See how we have a .env.example, which is where I mentioned earlier in the course, it's important to keep your API keys and endpoints private, or things that you want to keep private, in a secret file. So we're going to rename, because I think this project wants to see it as just .env. It's set as .example. Since we're using DeepSeek, I'm going to switch this to .env like this. Okay, so this is saying the module doesn't exist of .env. I'm going to clear that out. So, okay, and so the last thing we want to do also before we start is we want to get the module as well. It's weird because I thought I had the module, but maybe I didn't get the installation, so I'm going to rerun the requirement installation. And then I'm going to copy Playwright while that's doing it, because we want to get Playwright as well. I thought I installed everything. Maybe this is a different instance of this clone that I put somewhere else. So I'm just going to make this with you as we go, if that's the case. But I didn't use UV because I'm assuming this is git clone and I didn't set up the UV properly. So we'll see if this works. If it does, then you can do it either way as well. But it is going slower. All right, it looks like everything's good. I'm going to install Playwright next. So we're going to do Playwright install to get that. So we're going to run this upgrade. All right, so I'm still getting this warning about how we need to update to the latest version. I'm going to try running Playwright to see if it's there. So I'm going to do pip show Playwright. If you have Playwright and you type show Playwright, it should be there as well. You have to remember, Playwright is basically a powerful framework for testing web automations and running like web tests. But you could use it for browsing with AI agents. It looks like we have it. So what I'm going to do, and I did go through this before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back now that we see that we have the requirements installed and I see that Playwright is there, we'll try running this command again to move it up to a port. So we're going to try again. So if you have Playwright installed and you have the requirements installed and Python and you set up your virtual environment and you're seeing that you have a version of Playwright and all of this is working, then you should copy that command and it should launch this. It should launch Playwright in this browser link. And this browser link, which will then allow us to actually build AI agents to go and do things on our computer for us. So, okay, I see running locally here on 7788. So I'm going to copy this URL. We're going to open up a new tab and hit enter. Amazing, we did it, guys. Okay, so I can see now that we have the browser use web UI set up. Okay, so this is a very powerful tool that's going to enable us to remove ourselves completely and move two different AIs together and join two AIs together to work simultaneously in order to browse the internet for us. Save that for the next lesson. I'll see you there. Bye-bye. So we've made it to the Browser Use Web UI project. This is a very special project. It's going to allow us to interact with AI agents through this browser-based interface while integrating these various large language models. So as you can see, we can choose between OpenAI. We could even put in locally a base URL endpoint to send over from Ollama. It's pretty awesome what we could do here. What I want to leverage is actually another LLM, because we've looked at OpenAI, we've looked at Ollama, but I think using the Google AI Studio API, the Gemini API has vision and it moves fast and it's free to use. So let's go ahead and get the API and the API key for that. So we want to select Gemini here and we'll use the Gemini 2 Flash. And we want to go to Gemini API Studio. So we want to go to aistudio.google.com. Open up that bad boy right here. And you'd want to sign in or sign up with your Gmail if you haven't done that. So pause the video, get to this point where you're in the dashboard. It's free to do it. And you want to grab an API key. So you just want to click on Get API Key. You want to get the Gemini one. All right, and you want to create an API key. So it's going to generate an API key for us. You want to copy that. Remember to always keep that stuff safe. And then we want to go back here, and we're just going to paste the API key in. All right. Now we have access for Gemini to act essentially as our operator to go out and perform tasks for us. So we could really remove ourselves from the equation fully here. If we click on Run Agent, what we have is Browser Use Web UI is going to leverage Playwright, which is that open source automation library we downloaded from Microsoft. And that's going to actually instantiate a Chrome-like browser that our AI agent can use to do tasks for us. So you see how we get this default, go to Google, type OpenAI. We can change that. We can say go to google.com and find a great Italian restaurant nearby, and I'm in Miami, so it should find it in Miami. So let's see if this works. We're going to click on Run Agent, and whoop, you should see, look how fast that is. Basically, the agent just opened up Chromium, which is going to be for the browser, for it to search in a safe mode. And now take a look. It's actually identifying all of the elements. It found the toolbar, a great Italian restaurant nearby. Look how fast this is looking. This is going. It's actually searching for us, okay, the 10 best results here. It's got a question. Do you want the results that are close? Do you want to use, no, it shouldn't use it. Beautiful. I don't even have to watch this. I'm just showing you so you can see the process that's happening here. Look at that. It's scrolling down. It's looking at all of the results. It's pinning the results that are more relevant, and it's oh, there we go. We found a restaurant, Limoncello. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back here and notice how we also have results. So we can click on results, and I'll just save that. And so the results are still processing. So it must be finding multiple restaurants. But once this is done, because we have vision, Google has built a model capable of advanced visual perception. It can classify images, recognize different objects, detect objects. It can analyze scenes in context, use optical character recognition. And so when you combine Gemini Vision with tools like Playwright, the idea is to leverage the computer vision capabilities of Gemini to capture and analyze the content displayed in a web browser, then use that visual data to make decisions or take actions. And we can see here, we even get a recording of everything that happened. So if I skip through it, we went to Google, our agent did some work. Look at this, our personal assistant is working here. Our personal assistant is looking up good restaurants for us. It found one good one. Did it find another one? No, it just checked the menu. That's so funny. It was going through the menu and deciding if it's good enough. That's so funny. So the restaurant, Limoncello, Miami Beach, gives us the address, the phone number, the menu is available on the website. And we even get the model thoughts as it's moving through so we can see what was happening. I'll try to scroll down, check the footer. This is insane. This really is showing you the real growth model for AI agents and where we're going with this. It's just absolutely next level. Imagine having a parallel processing where you can scale and have 10 agents working simultaneously to build a product, and then you're starting to see the bigger picture. So I want you to try and run your own agent to perform a task for you online. It could be something like looking for a job or searching for something. Start small. Don't try to do the most ambitious thing in the world, and then work your way up. Learn how these tools work, and as you do it incrementally, you're going to get more ideas, and then you won't feel overwhelmed. I mean, that's my advice. But guys, we did it. Congratulations. This is the end of this course. I can't believe it. I can't believe what we've done. We've climbed a mountain together. It's been albeit a higher view of key concepts, but everything we've explored, from prompt testing with misspelling the words to test NLP and understand context better, to building a game that runs in HTML with DeepSeek, to then actually downloading DeepSeek locally and running it on our terminals. I mean, this is powerful tooling. Getting a hold of the privacy level for ourselves, understanding how these models work, how you can create distilled versions, understanding the parameters behind reinforcement learning and the weights, again, with the language to then communicate with stakeholders and as well communicate with machine learning data scientists or computer scientists to then have the conversations to either do your own consulting, to build your own products. And then we went much deeper than that too, right? Like then we used LiveWeave and we built a website. We went to OpenRouter. We were making API requests. We went to make.com and created a weather OpenRouter. This has been quite a course. We even designed the full stack project with Built DIY and then built a game. And now I'm showing you how you can run agents in your browser. If your mind is not blown, I don't know what else I can show you. These tools are phenomenal, and it gives me such pleasure to demonstrate them and just get you started in this space. For those of you both coming from an IT level or from a programming level, or those of you coming from a less tech background but curious to understand the fundamentals, I hope you guys enjoyed the course. Please feel free to leave me a review. Would love to hear what you think. If there's something else you would like me to get into out of all this and deeper. I'm working on a series because obviously there's significant hype, but I also believe that there's like serious significant value here. I mean, it's no joke. This stuff is no joke, and I think we're super ahead of the game, guys. They're super ahead of the game. So congratulations again. I guess all good things have to come to a close. I'm kind of sad that the course is already done, but I'm thinking about working on for the next one, basically creating an autonomous social media system where you can implement autonomous social media influencers. I think that's super interesting. So maybe that'll be the next one. I have some other ideas as well. There's so much you can do. Thanks again, guys. Keep it real, or as real as AI allows you to. And I'll see you in another video, maybe in the future. Bye-bye.